Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your S.O.R. swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good. If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual S.O.R. Fan Party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada, and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldine Orozco, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the S.O.R. Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024.
I'm not a good pretender, I never could live a lie. I said too much, and let it get the best of me, until it took the rest of me. I thought it was worth the fight, to fight for what's right, to right all the wrongs, to sing in our songs, to know we belong. No one understands, they don't have the desire, got their hands in the fire, and they do it again. We give it all we can, all we have is desire, got their hands in the fire, we burn the still, they never say, never say, never say, never again. I never say, never say, never say, never again. I learned more from one enemy than from 1,000 friends. That heaven takes care of the fools and scoundrels in the end. You learn more from one lie than from 1,000 truths.
Yes. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. And you will be broadcasting tonight on the terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. While you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the S.O.R. Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. Thanks for coming on in today to the show. We do appreciate you guys showing up for this after hours on this Sunday night. Let me go ahead and jump in the Chizat and see who has joined us tonight. We're going to have an awesome show. We have the legendary Swamp Dweller. You guys know who Swamp Dweller is. Been a part of the channel for a while. A lot of great stories that we've heard through there. So I'd be glad to be able to speak to the man behind the stories today. Let's go ahead and jump into the Chizat and see who we got, what's going on here. Let me see. Goal position for tonight, according to my guy Race Fan, shows that Race Fan gets the goal for tonight. Deb from Sacramento comes in with the silver, and James Horn with the bronze.
Thank you so much for coming on in, guys, and I do appreciate. Rob, your audio is a bit low. Let me move. Let me bring that up here. All right, is that better? How we sounding there? We sounding good? Thumbs up for good audio. Thumbs up for good audio. We turn the mic up. Thumbs up for good audio. Still low. Okay, thumbs up for good audio. We're doing good. Okay, great, great. All right, good, good. Thanks for catching that early, right? Do appreciate you guys, right? This is what the team is all about. This is why we play for the team, and the team. I do appreciate you guys having my back like that, because whoa, can't do a whole damn show, uh, with the bad sound. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Appreciate you guys once again. And okay, good. Well, still low. Race fan says still low. Are we good? Come on, can I get unanimous thumbs up on good sound before we move forward? Can we get these? Or one? Either one. One or thumb. It doesn't matter. Good sound. Still low. Still low. Still low. Okay. How about now? Crank the mic up. Are we doing good? We doing good tonight on Spaced Out Radio? After hours? Is the sound good on Spaced Out Radio? I don't. Okay. Let me dibble real quick here. Yeah. See, some say sound is perfect. A little more. You guys are behind 10 seconds. So let me do this. Beautiful sound. I like that. Okay. Because I got my mic up. Sounds perfect. We'll give it 10 seconds to make sure. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Either someone's trolling me or we have an actual issue here. All right, let me turn that on. How about now? How we looking? Good enough. Good enough. Yes. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. On with the show. All right. So we'll go on with the show. Just let me know if anything's different. I got to go ahead and jump in and say what's up to everybody here. As we went ahead and talked about the gold, medal, silver positions. All right. So we got Race Fan in the building saying, good evening, Rob. Good evening, Race Fan. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for helping me keep this audio on point. Do appreciate you showing up tonight. Deb from Sacramento saying, hey, y'all, checking in. Hey, Deb from Sac, thanks for coming in. We appreciate you patronizing Space Out Radio and showing your support and your love tonight. Thanks for coming on in. James Horn saying HJ. I think that's hi. So hi, James Horn. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. And then the man in the back, Swamp Dweller, with the fire emoji. So it's probably gonna get hot tonight, is what I'm assuming. Appreciate you coming on in and joining the show with us, Swamp Dweller. Ron J. 111155. Where's Jessica? Not sure. I think she just ended her show, right? So, she's chilling, I'm sure. Shout out to Jessica Jones and anybody who came over from the Cryptid Huntress show. We do appreciate, that's all part of the family here. Moving down the list here, we got Metal Cultist Media. Okay. Swampit of the Dwells. Okay, I like that. Definitely appreciate you for coming on in tonight, Metal Cultist Media. And Just a Sloth with Wi-Fi. I like that. T-minus 30 minutes. So excited for SD. That's what I'm talking about. And it seems like both of you may be new and maybe came over because of Swamp Dollar. That's awesome. I know it's a super popular channel. So if you're new, we do appreciate you coming on over. Kind of let you know what we do here. Saturday and Sundays, we run this show, which is the After Hours show. Starts at 8 p.m. Pacific, runs till 11 p.m. Pacific. On Sunday specifically, we have the Cryptid Huntress. It comes in right before this show. So 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific. Then you roll right from her show right on over here to us at the After Hours. And then Dave Scott, who's the conductor of this whole Woo Train, and he runs this thing Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific until midnight. So, guys, 7 days a week, we got something going on here Spaced Out Radio. We really would appreciate it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and joining us for future shows. So thanks for coming on in. Just a Sloth with Wi-Fi. Getting down the list, we got Roger Murray dropping knowledge bombs always from Roger Murray. May 7th, 1920, 104th birthday. Father of UFO research, Robert McDonald died June 13th, 1971 by unaliving himself. Wow. Didn't know that. And I do appreciate always when you were dropping those knowledge bombs, Roger Murray. That's what it's all about. Absorbing new knowledge, having conversations that help move the needle, like we talk about. And your input is always appreciated. Roger Murray, thanks for coming on in tonight. Tomoth, man, you're never late. Oh, am I late to the party? Never late, Tomoth, man. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for keeping it going in the chat. Eternity Eternal has stepped in saying, hi, Rob G. Hey there, Eternity Eternal. Let's go ahead and have an awesome show tonight as you get ready to jump into this new week. Once again, as we always say, we're going to put those positive energies out there to make sure that we're going to manifest yourself a great week as we lead into our trip to Reno, which we're going to have the live show. We'll talk about that more later. But do appreciate you coming on in, Eternity Eternal. And let's see here. Who else do we have in here? Looks like we got Paramarv saying, howdy, folks. Howdy, Paramarv. Appreciate you coming on in. Para is always here and always putting in great input in the chat. And we do appreciate your support of the show, Para, and your fantastic questions, which I'm sure you're going to have some of those later for Swamp Dweller. So appreciate you coming on in. Getting down the list here, we got Melvin from Mars. Hello all. And I may say a name twice. I'm going down the list, and sometimes that happens. But we do have Aloha Dave in here saying saludos a todos de Mexico. Thank you, Aloha Dave. Greetings to everyone from Mexico. He always keeps us bilingual, and we appreciate it, right? Just more knowledge, more stuff to absorb until your mental. Anna Boline has stepped in saying 13 evening, everyone. Okay, maybe I'm missing what 13 is, but we do appreciate Anna Boline for coming on in and supporting the show tonight. We got T2 Toey, T-Toey, saying, so good to see you, Swamp Dweller. Thank you for coming on in tonight. We appreciate you. Lex Diaz is in the building with the finger biting emojis. But you nervous over there? We're going to have a great show tonight, Lex Diaz. You already know. Appreciate you coming on in. Getting down the listy. Who else has come on in here? Van Gold, LVL, Dr. Love saying good evening, Rob G and Spaced Out Radio. Good evening, LVL. We do appreciate you coming on in. Wouldn't be a great night in the chat without Van Gold. So thanks for coming on in. Moving on down the list. Who else has stepped in the building? It looks like we have Brown Dwarf has stepped in the building saying good evening, Brown Dwarf. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing on up tonight. Moving down the list here. We got, who else do we have? I'm just looking. Okay, we have T-Waz saying, hey, everyone. Hey, thank you for coming on in, T-Waz. We appreciate you showing up and supporting the show as we get into it tonight, right? Appreciate you coming on in. Let's see, down the list. Who else do we have here? Black Dragon. Yes, Black Dragon has stepped in the building. Glad to see you back around, Black Dragon. It's like second show in a row. Took a hiatus and now you're back, and we totally appreciate it. Appreciate you showing on up. Getting down the list here. Yes, also Jessica S. Jessica S is in the building. Seeing that, Mr. Rob G, mods and chatters with a bunch of different emojis. We appreciate you, Jessica S, for showing up tonight, coming into the show. Should be awesome tonight. Let's see. Moving down our list of participants tonight. And next one I see here is Lars Jansen saying, good morning, all. Good morning, Lars Jansen. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate you coming in. And yes, Dragonfly is also in the building saying evening, Rob G and S.O.R chat family. Evening, Dragonfly. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. Thanks for showing up. And yes, let's see. We're going. Deidre C is in the building saying hi, Mr. Rob G and S.O.R peeps. Hey, thanks for coming on in. Okay, and the music is louder than your voice. Thank you for letting me know that, because it's there's no way for us to be able to see that on this end, JSCO. The setup, the streaming setup doesn't allow you to have a lot of control over that. So I appreciate you letting me know, because I'm trying to make sure that that it's adjusted properly. So thanks for letting me know that. And let's see. Okay. Getting down the list, Travis DeLuca saying hello everyone with the wavy hand emoji and the alien head emoji. Thanks for coming in, Travis DeLuca. We appreciate you showing up tonight. Let's see, moving down the list, Paranormal Pixie is in the building. And okay, so that's what that was. That was from earlier. Okay, got it. Appreciate you showing up tonight, Paranormal Pixie, Laura. Moving down the list. Okay. Okay. Yep. This is all the letting me know that we were low. Mimi. Okay, Mimi. Thanks for coming on in, Mimi. We appreciate you showing up tonight. Magneticus, Attractus. Long time no see, buddy. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Thanks for coming on in, sir. Hopefully that time machine is almost ready to go. We'll talk about that later. Moving down the list here. Okay, we are getting current. We are close to current. Let's see. We got See, JSCO. We got JSCO, but we did not get Brienne. Brienne with 2 thumbs up. Thanks for coming on in, Brienne. We do appreciate you. Magnolia V12 saying hi there. Hey, Magnolia V12. Thanks for showing up. Let's see. I know I said Aloha Dave, but I'm going to say it again because Aloha Dave is so awesome. Saying perfect. Thank you for coming on in, Aloha Dave. We appreciate you. Little Cam 51 from Twitch, viewing us from Twitch, and spring football's in full throttle. St. Louis Battlehawks still the #1 team. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks for coming on in. And let's see. Okay. Kevin is in the building. Sup, blood? So moderator wants to be a cripple? Not sure what you mean there, Kev. Not sure what you mean there, but appreciate you coming on in and supporting the show tonight. Let's see. Doug Shelby's in the building. Yeah, man. I got our thing on 10 and it's still kind of shy. Okay. Thanks for coming in, Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby. We appreciate you showing up. Puck Elf is in the building saying, sounds fine. Good, Puck Elf. Appreciate you coming on in. Always have great conversation in the chat. Andrew Hillier. There you go. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you. We are moving. Warden Dragon. That louder and nice. Love it. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Appreciate you showing up. Moving. We got first super sticker of the night, which we appreciate, from Moonlight 0111. Appreciate you. Seems like a new name. If so, welcome. And we do appreciate you coming through tonight. Spaced Out Radio After Hours. Moving down the list, we got Hank Van Kranenberg. Hank Van Kranenberg saying hi, everyone. Hey there, Hank. Appreciate you showing up. We are almost there. Ginger Turtle 43. Happy Sunday, Rob and everyone. Thank you for coming, Ginger Turtle 43. We appreciate you. LeakU.com. Hello at Spaced Out Radio. Mods in chat with alien head emojis. Hello, LeakU. Thank you for coming on in and supporting the show tonight. Somebody saying, let's go Oilers. That is not me So not sure who would be rooting for the Oilers, but that's not me. I'm a San Jose Shark. If anything, if I had to go with hockey, it'd be a San Jose Shark. So yeah, let's keep moving down the list here. Da, 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 da. That must be Dave. It must be Davey. All right, taking a look at this Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast channel. Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast channel. What's going on? Thank you for coming on in, saying, hey, brother, hello, everyone. Appreciate you coming on in. We do love it when we see new names in the chat, so we do appreciate you showing up tonight. We got the Dark Side podcast. Let's go. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Celeste Atlas, let's go. My sharks are long out. Yeah, I'm a shark too, Celeste. So we are right here with that. We are right here with that. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Yeah, Doug. You saw that, Doug Shelby. You saw that, huh? More to come on that, Doug. It's not more to come. More to come, buddy. But I appreciate you. Let's see. Okay, moving on down. We got a lot of people in here, and I love it. Richard Minnick saying, good evening, folks. Thanks for coming. Audacious Amber saying, hey, thank you for coming on in, Audacious Amber. We appreciate you. Let's get it going. Moving down here. Michael Fontaine. Hello, everyone. Hello, Michael Fontaine. Boom, boom, boom. Christine is in the building saying, hi, Robbie G. Hi, people. Hey, Christine. Thanks for showing up tonight. We appreciate it. It seems like we might have a packed house. Penny Van, thank you for coming on in. Wavy hand emojis. Let's see. Down the list. So many people in here. We appreciate too. Karen in the Woo Train. Can't forget about Karen in the Woo Train. Let's stop right there. Hey, Mr. Rob G, looks like another awesome show tonight, and it should be. It should be. And we're almost at the end of the list, so we could definitely jump up in there. Look, Aloha Dave. I think Dave's lurking, LOL. I think he is too, because I'm sure not typing Oilers stuff. Someone is spamming the chat, and it's probably Dave. Woo Riders DG. How about them Rangers, Paramore? Hey, Woo Riders DG. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. I promise we're almost there. 14, the movement. The color, the Sharks color is called teal, FYI. Yes, it is. And it's a nice color. I like teal. Appreciate you coming on in. Operation Shutdown. Good to see Sweet Robbie G. Good to see Operation Shutdown has stepped in the building. We can get the show going. It's about to go down. We appreciate you showing up. And I think that's current. We are current at this point. So, yes, gonna be a great show. We got the awesome Swamp Dweller in the house. We've heard Swamp Dweller stories for years and years on this channel, right? It's definitely not we should feel familiar, although it's going to be great to actually talk to the person behind the channel and the stories. So do appreciate it. Somebody spamming the chat, spacedoutradio. It's got to be Dave Scott, Oilers and six. All this hockey talk, not under my watch, okay? Dave, not under my watch, Dave. No hockey talk. This is all. It's still NBA season here in the United States. We are still following NBA teams here in the United States. We don't have time for hockey here in the United States. FYI, that's a Canadian thing. We'll let you guys worry about that in Canada, as we in America worry about the NBA season. All right. Swamp Dweller. Oh, you mean the former NFL team? Exactly. Hockey schmocky. Hockey schmocky. All right. So with that being said, Dave's obviously trolling in the chat. Mods, can you make sure you keep an eye on that Spaced Out Radio account? Make sure it doesn't get too wild with those responses out there. Time them out if you have to, as we continue to go on with the show. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring in our guest for tonight, none other than Swamp Dweller. And I'm just so glad to be able to meet Swamp Dweller tonight. How are you tonight?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, Swamp Dweller. I've heard the name. For many years here. The stories are awesome, always awesome, and it's just finally good to be able to speak to you. I don't know. Do you do a lot of interviews?
Honestly, not really. I think the last one I did was with Dave the last time I was on here.
And how long ago was that? Because I've been watching for a while.
Oh man, at least a year ago at this point, a little over a year ago.
Okay, okay. So with that being said, and it's anytime you do an interview, and especially with me, I like to get to know the person. I know what you're known for, and everyone knows what you're known for at this point. But I like to kind of humanize the person I'm talking to, and would like to know about Swamp Dweller, the person, and kind of like growing up, what led you into just being interested in this field, let alone writing stories or receiving stories about it. I don't know if you would mind starting there. And actually, real quick before you start, Paranormal Pixie is saying Swamp Dweller is loud. Are you able to turn down just a little bit? You sound fine to me, but to them, you're loud.
Yeah, I can turn down a little bit. Hopefully, this is a little bit better for everybody.
Okay. Is it good, guys? Are we balanced? Are we balanced now? Because it sounds fine on my end. Thumbs up if we're balanced.
Yeah, hopefully this is better. It might have been a little loud.
Okay, so she says better. Okay, great. Yes, so if you're able to pick up like kind of what got you into this, because there's we all grew up on science fiction and that sort of thing, but like I've never had any experiences to kind of connect science fiction into reality until I got older here, literally within the last couple years. So what was it for you? Was it the same, or did you have any experience growing up that led you into this field, or what how would you lay that out?
Well, I wouldn't say this was like something that I was like ever like I guess like physically conscious of being interested in, but as far back as 7 years old, I can think of weird stories that I could share with you that don't make any sense or hard to explain, and kind of just constantly have me scratching my head when I think back on them all these years later. And all these weird experiences, growing up, I kind of just forget about them. You know how kids are, we're living day to day. But as I got older, I started to realize that, like, hey, this is like a deja vu moment. I started having these moments to where it's like I feel like I've experienced this before. And growing up in the deep South, whether it be Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, I lived in a lot of really old homes that were built in the 1910s, 1920s, even some 1880s homes and stuff like that. And I just started to have a lot of really weird experiences, and especially in my teen years, and it just kind of led me to this fascination with like the macabre and just things that are unexplained. I just love a good like mystery. It's something, it just feels like a puzzle piece to me, to where it's like you got to like put these pieces together, and sometimes you just can't ever find the right piece, and that's the thing that makes me I feel like really enjoy that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, but behind a great story. I mean, it's something that makes you, and that we had a show, Dirty Filth was a guest on, and we talked about how art, it's kind of like a non-verbal sort of translation of the message that he's putting on paper. But then when you go to something where it's like voice only, it kind of leans into like talk radio and just the ability for a person to listen to a story that's well put together and be able to visualize the images that are being portrayed, and you do that very well with the way that you retell a story. So did were you a storyteller, author growing up in school? Did you write any books or anything? Like what kind of tied you into the story aspect of it?
The ironic part about it, honestly, is that I've grown up with a speech impediment. My dad also has a very bad speech impediment, and I was absolutely the worst reader in school. I would get made fun of a lot, actually, because I had a very thick, Southern drawl when I grew up, and it took a lot of training for me to physically not talk. Like, hey, y'all, you know what I mean? So I had to like physically like fight that, but with a speech impediment on top of it, I just sounded like I was illiterate most of the time in high school. And I got a lot of people who, give me a hard time for that and whatnot. So when this whole thing took off, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was like a shot in the dark type thing. It was definitely not what I was going for, but it turned into this. And I kind of just leaned into the sense to just like a lot of these stories I can relate to. I have personal experience to where I can imagine how they felt, that goosebumps feeling, that
Mhm.
feeling in your chest, especially that confusion to where you're in like that fight or flight, but you don't know why. And I kind of just lend those experiences that I've been to and just try to put them into the stories and tell them as if I were experiencing them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because the way it comes across, and I just to start off, I appreciate anyone that's in a space where they are creating things artistically, and you're the part that you're receiving stories, but the ability to retell those, I think, is the artistic part of it, because anyone can read a story, but to be able to have the feeling and emotion portrayed for the reader to be able to portray that is a talent in itself. So it just so happens that did you have any former training in voice, storytelling, or the ability to express emotion through stories?
Again, kind of an ironic part. Like, no, I had a lot of issues, like I said, growing up with speech impediments and stuff. And my parents were always super concerned because I always sounded super monotone, like I wasn't interested and stuff like that. And as I got older, I think I just kind of eventually fell into a natural voice. And it's kind of just like my natural talking voice now, where people are always like, "You're super
Mm,
animated, bro. Like, you're super animated." And it's just kind of just how I am at this point. But I think it's just something that came with practice. And I'm on year 8 of doing this now. So it's kind of just, you do this every single day. And I've been working on it. And when you hear like my first videos, you'll definitely be, okay, this guy doesn't quite know what he's doing. But now I think it's kind of just like a muscle. I've kind of gotten so used to it. It's become like second nature to me. And it's just something I'm so passionate about that I think that it just makes me put that extra effort onto it.
yeah, I mean, and you have a super successful YouTube channel. I mean, you have over 300,000 subscribers, which is bananas. But it makes sense though, because the type of content that you do is like an evergreen content, something that you can fall back on. A great story is always valuable and interesting for anyone. I mean, at any time, and you just sit back and kind of close your eyes and listen to these stories. What type of feedback are you getting from your viewers? Like, well, I know they have to love it, obviously, with the numbers that you have.
I'd say it's always been overwhelmingly positive for the most part. Now, there's definitely, hate
Trolls.
comments. There's
Yeah.
definitely trolls. There's definitely people who give, constructive criticism. And then you got the people who just, say negative things and say negative things. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And, you can't. I think that's something that I had to learn real quick when doing this whole thing, especially when things just started to blow up out of nowhere, where it's just like, I've got all these people saying so many different things to me, and it kind of just it's not one of those things to where I ever had like an ego problem, but I think it definitely had me. I think I used to care too much in the sense to where like you would
Mm,
see like a negative comment and then you'd have to like feel like you need to defend yourself and stuff like that. And I feel like I've kind of gotten to a point now to where I see everybody's feedback and I understand it and I don't take it so personally. And I get that the content's not going to be for everybody. And,
mhm.
I've seen an influx like recently where it's like, oh, this is an AI voice. And, people are going to believe that, but, it's just that age, you got a lot of different technologies out there now and a lot of different types of content. And, there are a lot of AI voices out there. So I get it. But, like if this was like 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago, I probably would have been incredibly offended by that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's needed where, this space that you're in is for, and it's obvious by the numbers that it's needed, but just my personal feeling is that it's definitely needed because, you have experiencers, like we could bring experiencers on stage right now, but they in the moment may not really be able to articulate their story very well, or even have the voice that would be able to kind of resonate with a viewer in order for that story to be received correctly. So it's like you being that middleman or that conduit. I know Lon Strickler does the same. There's a few other people I know that are in the same space, and they all have that ability to be able to make every story resonate and make every story be received I think probably way better than if the experiencer themselves told the story. So it's for sure a needed thing in this space and it's appreciated. Where do you see, like, what is your goal for the channel? Obviously, it has to be amazing to have all these things sent into you, but what do you plan on doing with the catalog? Is there an end goal for the channel?
It's definitely something I've been thinking about recently. It's we're coming up on a decade of doing this. We're on year 8, so we're not too far off from that 10-year mark. And I've been thinking about either putting together maybe a book of these experiences or just maybe putting out which is probably more like what I would do, is just put out this really epic marathon where I reread kind of a bunch of classic stories and kind of just go over the stories that really made the Swamp Dweller channel what it is. Um, Including, like the Letters from a Cryptid Hunter series and stuff like that, and just kind of put the quality that I have now onto the stories we put out a couple years ago where, the production might not have been as good. Um, I don't know if I necessarily have a goal as of right now. I'm kind of just in one of those moments to where I'm going through a transitional period in life, and just kind of trying to figure out, kind of what I do at this point. I'm kind of in a weird spot. I'm 28 years old. I'm getting close to that 30-year mark. And I haven't done anything but YouTube since I was 20. So I'm kind of just at a point in life to where it's like, okay, I want to do more in my actual life, but I don't want to let down the Swamp Dweller fans. So I'm not quite sure what my future goals are, but I definitely want to, keep on putting out the best stories I can.
That's awesome. And one thing, and I always say, like, myself in this space and just being able to contribute what I can. Now, I'm not telling stories, I'm not doing any other thing, but I'm doing the part that I can do to kind of help this thing move. But one thing that I do realize while doing this is that, when you're always churning out content and you're always looking to the next conversation, you rarely have time to kind of stop and look back on what you have done, the progress you may have made, or just the catalog that you've put together. Like, is it the same for you? Because for me it seems like, you just never get time to stop and appreciate, like, what you've put together. Do you feel that, or have you ever run across that, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, definitely. That's been probably the biggest battle of, this whole thing is, when I first started, I was kind of alone, living in my car, just kind of, recording when I can, just doing my thing. This was just something that kind of gave me that escape. And then it became something that was like it enveloped my whole life. And it's been like that for better part of a decade now. And there's definitely a lot of moments to where it conflicts with, personal lives, relationships, friendships, other things you want to do in life. And it definitely changes a lot. But sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But how I really deal with a lot of it is just trying to, make sure I focus on those priorities, make sure I'm giving the people in my life that support me and care about me the same support and love. And, really you just have to remember that, this is just a website at the end of the day. This is just, youtube.com doesn't carry over into real life. I might have 300,000 subscribers on this website, but when I walk it, I go to Publix across the street, there isn't 300,000 people there being like, "Hey, Swamp Dweller," So I kind of have to make this distinction mentally that, this is what I do as a career online. And then this is my real life that also intertwines with this, but you can't let it, overtake and be everything that you think about and do. Especially when you have, loved ones that, rely on your time and in your presence.
Yeah, balancing act for sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, and it's, obviously the more success you get, well, I don't know, because I haven't been fully on that successful side of it yet, but I would feel like, the early days of trying to put things together, because you don't know where you're going, you don't have a roadmap to kind of follow, so you're kind of just doing what you can to get to the next video, to the next kind. So in you're hoping one of these things does well, and but then once you finally figure out a strategy that works, then it would seem like the process is a little easier to kind of get content out there. And I know I'm kind of in that space right now where, I'm just I'm doing it and kind of not having an expectation on the end result. And I'm sure you could resonate with that because you're so further along in this process. But one thing I would like to ask is, with these stories that you get, is there a time where you look at one and you're vetting, and so you're like, no, I won't put this one on because I'm not sure about that? Or what is the vetting process that you go through?
It's definitely changed a lot over the years, but I'd say the biggest thing is just, I want to make sure that this is, if they're claiming the story is true, I want to make sure that the story is realistic, makes sense, and at least the detail, the supporting and the details around like where they are, where things happened. Like I want to make sure it's accurate. Obviously, I'm not going to be 100% on the mark. There's definitely been times
Mhm.
where I put out stories where they'll be like, "Oh, I saw a black bear in a place where black bears have never been seen before," and I'm like, "Oh man, crap." But I try my best to make sure that, I'm making sure that, the fauna is correct, the locations are correct, that these cities exist, that they're in these places that they say they are. I can't be 100% like I said, but that's a big thing that I do try. Um, and a lot of it just kind of comes down to just making sure that the story flows well, makes sense. Pretty much everything that gets sent to me, I have to rewrite. I have to, most people aren't writers that are sending me these stories. So it kind
Right.
of it's definitely a process of like, okay, finding this text, fixing it up, making it make sense grammatically, and then seeing like, all right, do these details make sense? Does this exist in this area that they're saying it does? And from there, if everything checks out in that general sense, I'll kind of move on with it and whatnot. At the end of the day, they're allegedly true. I can't go out and prove any of this stuff. So, that's kind of the fun of it, in my opinion, where you have like this little bit of unknown to where you're like, this sounds true. This could have happened for sure, but I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Every so often we'll do like true crime stuff and we'll do, dark history and stuff that you can verify and kind of actually find real facts for. But when it comes to the submissions, a lot of times that's kind of the fun of it, where you're rolling the dice. You're like, man, this sounds like it could have happened at any time.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that. I mean, you would definitely understand how, yeah, the true crime stuff is usually based on evidence, and so you're able to kind of dig for that. But then with the phenomenon, we don't have answers, so you kind of have to just use your best judgment and logic and see what's plausible or not. And that's good. Yeah, and that's a great mindset to have, kind of working through this. Was there, I know by now there had to have been a point, but what moment did, when it kind of struck you, because you're receiving all these different stories, and there had to be a moment where you're like, I can't believe, like, wow, all this stuff is going on out there, where it kind of clicked in your mind that there's just all this activity out there and it's not really at the forefront of the conversation. Does that really conflict with you, or how do you feel about that?
Well, being somebody from a young age that definitely experienced some weird and unexplainable things, I kind of had an idea that there was this other side to the world for sure. And I was always just a big fan of like ghost hunter shows and all that stuff too growing up. And I just kind of got really immersed into that world whether it was horror movies, whether it was documentaries. I just kind of love that stuff. And I kind of just got this feeling that like there has to be more going on. I mean, you see these amazing things in history, like the Romans and the Aztecs and the Egyptians, and you're just like, man, there had to be something more going on to the world. And all these civilizations have come and passed. There's no way that the world's just like, they're just gone.
Hmm.
There's so much energy out there, and from the things I've experienced, and then as you mentioned, I just get this overwhelming flood of stories. Probably I'd say at least close to 10,000 stories or more over the past 8 years sent into the channel. And it's just like the amount of times that I have read stories where it corroborates another story from, say, even a year back. It just makes me feel like, sure, people could just be having mass delusions. Sure, people could just be sending in what they think people want to hear on the channel or whatever. But then you also have to think about it. Well, if all these people are experiencing very similar things, if not the same thing, there might be something to it. And even when you come to like the greatest fairy tales or anything like that, it always comes from a grain of truth. So whether or not a Bigfoot did a backflip and slapped your dad in the face, there might have been a grain of truth to where you saw something that you couldn't explain that night. And that's kind of where I'm here to try to get to the bottom of that, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I like I said, another thing I appreciate is anyone who catalogs data, and this would be a perfect example of that because it when you put together a substantial database and you have it open to the public in the way that you do, then it allows for other people to access that and kind of validate the claims that are being made in there. And I think that is just so helpful in figuring out what exactly is going on. Have you, with the amount of data that you have received or captured, are there any patterns that you see across the story, like, yeah, this ends up being something that people say all the time about this particular thing? Is there anything that has formed a pattern that you could talk to?
It's very hard because some things are super sporadic, but something that comes to mind right off the top of my head is like the whole skinwalker phenomenon. Whether it's in Navajo territories or whether it's somewhere in the random Canada or something, it all seems to really kind of turn into like a tumultuous time in people's lives, turmoil, mental instability, not in the sense that like they're crazy or anything, but emotional instability, stuff like that. Um, and I noticed that like a lot of the times the theme is like these people are going through hard times in their lives. And that's when they're going through some of the more horrific things. Um, but I've also noticed like when it comes to like Bigfoot encounters, it's kind of very similar, but on the other spectrum. A lot of times people are going through a more positive time in their life, and then they have this experience with a Bigfoot, and it kind of puts them onto this weird middle ground path where you're kind of like you don't know how to. A lot of times people don't know how to express themselves or get through an encounter with things like that because it wasn't expressly negative and it wasn't necessarily a dangerous encounter, but it was something that they never thought they would ever see in life and didn't believe could ever exist. Um, but the emotional state of people is something I noticed a lot in these stories when it comes to cryptids and the paranormal. There's a lot of tumultuous times going on, whether it be positive, whether it be negative. There's a lot of emotions, involved into these stories, whether that's something that actually, makes the encounter, what it is, or if it's just something that I happen to be latching on to. It's just something I've noticed.
So, and that's great. And shout out to W Decker. Appreciate the awesome super chat saying, "OMG, how did he know that a Bigfoot did a backflip and slapped my dad in the face?" Thanks for a great show, guys. We appreciate you, W Decker. Thanks for that. And with that being said, I kind of want to look at, with the stories that you received in your personal experiences with phenomena, is there anything that you have experienced that you had then received a story about and it kind of aligns with some of the things that you've seen?
Oh, definitely. There's a story I've shared on the channel a few times. That's my personal story. Viewers would probably know. It's called the footsteps on my. I think it's called. I call it like the phantom footsteps on the roof, something like that. So I lived in this cabin that was built in 1802, middle of nowhere, Tennessee, right outside of Maryville. For all my East Tennessee friends out there, we were probably like 2-3 miles away from the nearest neighbor. We lived on top of this hill. We had like a mile long driveway that went up this long hill, and there was this one night where me and my two brothers, we were home alone. We decided to play manhunt, but we were too scared to go outside and play manhunt. Manhunt essentially is just a kind of a kind of, I guess, beefed up hide and seek. And so I decided to go hide on the roof. And, we had this metal roof to preface, and it was, you could hear any little noise, acorns, whatever, hitting it. And I decided to go sit up there. And it was early fall. It was just starting to get really cold, and we had this slight breeze, and the leaves were starting to fall and all that good stuff. And I remember just listening to the wind, the leaves rustling, some hitting the ground every so often. And then everything kind of just stops. Like the wind stops, and it just gets deathly quiet. And I kind of didn't really think about it at the time. I was probably 16 when this happened, 15 probably. So I didn't really know much about any of this stuff and predators or, anything where things would just go quiet. And I was sitting up there for a minute, and I hear what sounds like hooves land on the far side of the roof. And with this metal roof, you could hear it's like chink, chink, chink. And I was like, wow, it sounds like the goats we have, because we had goats, we had pigs. We had cattle. We had all kinds of stuff on our property. And I remember just sitting there for a second, like, okay, that's weird. So I slipped back down into my room window. My brothers come up the stairs. They're complaining. They're like, hey, man, you can't go on the roof. That's cheating, all that. I'm telling them, like, hey, I say to my older stepbrother, I'm like, hey, so like, there's something on the roof. I don't know what's up there. You want to come, check it out with me, something along those lines. And he's like 6 foot, 200 pounds at the time, varsity football team. He's the tough guy of the family. I was like, all right, let's go up there. We get up there and, the breeze is slightly going and I swear it's just like a movie. It kind of stops again. It's, slight breeze still, but like the sound is gone. And we're both sitting there almost back to back at this point, and we hear what sounds like, again, these goat hooves land on the opposite side of the roof and kind of slowly but surely walk towards us. But then probably after, I'd say 30 seconds, but probably was like 10 seconds or so, it sounds like they start sprinting towards us and then going in circles around us. So we're sitting there on the roof just hearing these, noises go around us, and we can almost feel the vibration of like feet running on the roof. And we're just kind of like, all right. So I do the only logical thing that I remember seeing on like Ghost Adventures or whatever. And I put my arm out. I'm like, all right, let me see if it's cold. And I feel like this slight breeze going around us, and it's like super cold. And it's almost like staticky, though. It's almost like electricity. I'm like, oh, this is weird. I've like, now I can think that it's an energy going around us. But then I was like, this is strange. And then it sounds like it stops abruptly, makes this left turn, and then runs off and jumps off the roof into, this ravine. But like the side it jumped off was where our deck was. We had this raised deck. It was probably like 12 feet in the air. Our house was built on the side of the hill. So like that side of the house went down to the hill, straight down the hill. So this thing probably jumped in 100 feet or more down this hill into this, continuously down this ravine into a pond. But we don't ever hear it land. We don't ever hear any splashing sounds or anything like that. And after that, kind of anticlimactically, we climb back into the house and we just kind of just don't say anything about it. Wow. And that's been a story that I've shared a few times on the channel. It's just been one that sticks out a lot because I've heard a lot. I've gotten so many stories about steps on the roof, goat hooves in the house, stuff like that, just very similar things. And it always just brings like this goosebump to me. I just can't explain it, but just being out there in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee and the Appalachia, you definitely experience some really strange things.
Wow. That is, I mean, when you said that, that resonated with me so much because I had phantom footsteps on this right above where I'm at now. And I'll tell this story. Everyone has heard this 1,000 times. But yeah, I know exactly what that phantom footstep thing, how it feels. And it is definitely unsettling because nothing's there, or as far as you can tell, nothing is there, but it's obviously something. And then that's when the questions start forming with you and your friend. Do you guys still talk about this today? Is it like a big point of conversation? Does it ever come up, or you guys try to push it out your mind, or how do you deal with it?
Unfortunately, I haven't actually talked to that brother pretty much since that time period of my life. But it's one of those unfortunate situations. But every so often, I reminisce about it with my chat, and I'll kind of share it on videos every so often when I remember it and kind of feel like it would be fun to share with the audience.
Yeah. I mean, that's a wild situation. The energy thing, and that's one of the things that, when you look back, you kind of understand how that could be a thing, with the invisible energy, because we're energy's all around us. So it makes sense for that to be a plausible situation. When you look at this, and one of the things that, I have recently become open to a lot of this stuff. There was a time, I would say, pre 2017. Now, 2017 was a big moment for a lot of people, or an awakening moment for a lot of people, to kind of come to the realization that things are happening now on this planet that we don't understand. And for me, I know it's opened up a lot. So when I've heard your stories and other stories from experiencers, I find myself like taking one more step over into, wow, all this stuff could be possible. And so when I listen to stories like that, then I really approach those with an open mind, and so it's really needed at the end of the day. Do you think? And I would, obviously you wouldn't know this, but how do you think these stories impact the populace on a larger level? Do you ever get feedback on that? Like people tell me, wow, I'm so glad I heard that story because X, Y, and Z. I'm sure you probably get a lot of that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of people say like, I'm so glad I heard this story because, I had a similar experience. I've seen that countless times. I have seen some people kind of talk about it on a societal level though, to where they're like, this has helped me become a more critical thinker. This has made me think about things in different ways, instead of just being, monotheistic in a sense about it. Like, hey, there has to be this one way. Like, I was taught growing up. A lot of people have heard some of these more unexplainable stories and are like, what if I put a little bit more of critical thinking to it? The world is strange. And when you look at science, you see all these crazy things, so if truth can be strange, and a lot of times truth is stranger than fiction, if you can understand that and keep your mind open, you'll definitely start seeing and experiencing a lot of different things. Now, obviously I hear the other argument too. It's like, is that placebo or whatever? But I very much believe if you go looking for things, you'll find it. And if you go looking for the truth, I'm sure the truth will come find you.
Facts. So one thing, because we have like few minutes before the break, I just want to ask you, because I understand you also are a musician as well. Do you find what type of music do you do, first of all, and does this part of your life bleed into your music at any point?
We make metal music, easiest way to describe it. It's pretty underground and kind of extreme if you're not into that type of stuff. But this was something I was doing far before I fell into the paranormal and doing YouTube and stuff as well. It was my first love and my first passion in life, which is making music, especially emotionally impactful music. Being Swamp Dweller has definitely changed a lot of what I do musically, because now I have a lot more to talk about, and I have all these cool stories I can lean on and make crazy songs about. And I haven't done it too much, but and some of the stuff we've been working on recently, I've definitely shared a little bit of kind of like the lore of some of the cryptids that I'm a fan of. I've noticed like a lot of metal bands do dip into the Skinwalker thing or do dip into that type of stuff, but they don't actually have that knowledge of like where these things come from, or they haven't, gotten to interview, natives from the Navajo range like I have and stuff like that. So I kind of have like a unique perspective that I feel like I can bring to it. So they definitely intertwine a lot, but not as much as most people would probably think though.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm a creative as well. I'm a musician first as well. Been a lifelong musician. I mean, I bleed music. I live and bleed music, and I understand the creative process. And I had reached a point where, once I got into this, or when these things that happened in the phenomena became a real thing for me, and I contemplated how I could potentially translate that into music, because you're just telling a story through music, and this could be a story to tell, because it's actually one of the most important moments in humanity's history. I would think, shoot, if I had, a viewer base of 300,000, I would I'd definitely hit the studio, make a single about what's going on here, and probably get at least 300,000 sales off of that, I'm sure. Because what I found is I have a friend who has done that, who has kind of made a song or music about specifically what's going on in this phenomena, and it seems to resonate well with listeners or people who are within this community. So I think that's really just another form of getting that message out there, and another way for people to receive it. So I think it'd probably be awesome if you ended up doing that. Just one good song where someone who appreciates music or receives their gets their emotional fix from music, that might be a good avenue. And that's just musician to musician talking there. But with that being said, Swamp Dweller, we are actually at the end of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and jump into our first break of the night, and then we'll be back. We'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll be right back right here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere, please.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we get back into it with our guest, Swamp Dweller. But before we do, since you're already a space traveler, consider taking the next step and joining the club. That's right, you can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 buckaroonies a month. Please consider going over and subscribing. Do appreciate you coming on in. And we're going to go ahead and jump right back into it with Swamp Dweller. Swamp Dweller, hour 2, I kind of wanted to get into some of the most compelling stories that have come across your desk. If you wouldn't mind going into some of the ones that really kind of blew your mind when you read them.
Oh man, there's so many. One that definitely sticks out when people ask this question is a story that was sent to me very early on, actually, probably within the first 6 months of me doing this, and it was this Dogman story. And so this is I can't remember all the details, but the easiest way to explain it is this woman was living out in rural Pennsylvania. She lived in a single wide trailer on this plot of land. She had like 100+ acres. It was basically right up to this national forest as well. Just no neighbors around for miles. She was basically a hermit type thing, and she just kind of lived with her chickens, her ducks, and stuff like that. She had a few cattle, a couple horses, nothing too crazy. She started waking up, and there were all these crazy gash marks on her horse's hind legs. They're like 3 big claw marks, and she couldn't explain it. And she called game wardens. Everything was like, do you know what could explain this? They're like, maybe it's cougars, maybe it's mountain lions, something like that. So this keeps happening. She keeps finding marks on the sides of her duck coops, just on the sides of her buildings in general. She see these 3 scratch marks, and they were all pretty much the same, super distinctive. And she had tons of pictures that she sent me. Eventually, she started finding what looked like big dog prints. Looked like something like a German Shepherd, but like blown up like 5 times, like just a massive paw prints. And they were circling her house. So it went from kind of like from far away, attacking the animals that were out in the fields, coming closer, attacking the buildings that were closer to her home, and then eventually stalking the home itself, slowly making its way to the prize, if you will. And she was sleeping one night, and she just remembers waking up and is having this very distinct feeling of being watched, just this burning feeling like something staring at her with hatred. And she looks over at her window that she normally kept open at night because she didn't have central AC and all that, and it was a nice breeze. And she saw these deep amber eyes looking at her, and just this very slight growl. She freaks out. She always keeps a firearm next to her bed, and she immediately fires at the window. She doesn't know if she hit it. She never saw any blood. She never saw any indication that she did hit it, but she did hear what sounded like a yelp and this creature run. And it apparently was heavy enough that when it was running away, she could feel vibrations in her home. And that's like the first story that comes to my head. It was one of the first, probably within like the first 6 months, like I said, of stories that was sent to me. And it's something like every so often I'll just be up late at night editing stuff or whatnot, and I'll just think about that story.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty heavy. So for you receiving these stories, I know you before you redo the stories or read them, you're reading them in your personal space, and you're hearing something wild like this. Does this change, and especially with the experience that you had, your own personal experience, when you're getting these stories, does it change the way that you feel about being safe, right? When you go outside or you go into the woods, do you ever second guess doing things because of the stories you receive and then your own experience knowing that there's reality to the things that are being said?
Sometimes. I think I've never really had like insecurity or being scared of going outside in the sense of like, am I going to run into this creature, or am I going to have some sort of encounter or whatnot? When I lived more in the rural areas where I was just super far from the populace, and like, you're going down the same road 30 miles before you see another road.
Mhm.
That I definitely felt more paranoid. But now being more in city environments and just there's being stuck in traffic 30 minutes every time you go anywhere,
Yeah.
I don't really have that fear because I'm in this, quote unquote safety of the city. But there were definitely times where, sometimes it'd be late at night, you're going outside and you get a smoke or something, and you just kind of get a little creeped out because you've been
Yeah.
many stories, and that's definitely happened a few times. You get like the house settles or something, and you hear like a creak, and you're like, oh well, here's my time. Skinwalker's here. Um, I've definitely had moments like that, but I don't really have like that incessant fear. Really, like none of this stuff scares me. It actually intrigues me. As I've said, I'm just entirely curious about this. I want to get to the bottom of it, as I said. So none of this is like a fear-based thing at all. Like I definitely would be not necessarily the most brave human being if, say, Bigfoot came up yoked up in my front yard or something, but I'm not necessarily terrified that I'm gonna go see a ghost or something.
See, I'm a little different there for whatever reason. It just like this footsteps, for instance, phantom footsteps. The thing is that it happens in a house that I live in, and we bought this house here, so we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So it isn't like we just go find something else. And on top of that, there was a shadow person here where we have photos of. So for me, I get, I just, I guess you could say it's a feeling of fear, sort of, or not really fear, but really, I guess fear of the unexpected, really, not fear of the actual entity, but just fear of what could happen. So I find myself when I walk through this house for the shadow person thing, and I'll be first admitted, I'll turn a light on real quick to kind of make sure that it's not there because we physically have a picture of it, so we know that the thing is here, and it just don't. Would rather, set myself up to not turn around and it's sitting right there next to me, sort of thing. So, and I'm one of those people, and the kind of reason why I asked you that, and you made a great comparison. If you're in the city all the time and you're in the quote unquote protected space where there's people all around you, then you may not feel that. But if you are on that long dark road, which I am, I'm a driver, so I'll get like literally I'll feel like I need to get outside and just get some wind. So I'll leave like even after this show, midnight. I'll go take a spin. I have a route that I go just to kind of get out and get the breeze. But the thing is that now, when you have the reality that things are out there like that, then it just is plays in the back of your mind and might make you second guess the choice, like going into the woods by yourself. If besides the obvious dangers, grizzly bears, mountain lions, if you realize that there are these other things out there, then maybe you make the choice not to go, sort of thing is kind of what I'm looking at. But it's good to know. I mean, with all those stories that you receive, I know for sure there'd be a point to where I'm like, but I guess I don't know, you have to be a different sort of person to be able to deal with that, reconcile it, and then be able to kind of step into those realms, I guess in feeling more brave than I feel. But where do you see besides the scariest story that you had, or the one that was most compelling, what was one that came across the table and you just were like, nah, I can't include this, or I can't go with this? Was there ever one that it was obvious that a person was trying to pull one over on you?
Man, there's a really crazy werewolf story that I never released, but it was super compelling. It all made sense. It was such a good story, and then like 15 minutes into reading it, suddenly it takes this crazy twist, and like it just turns into this like fan fiction fantasy thing, and I'm just like, no. So yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times to where like you'll get these really long, intricate stories, and they just turn into like some really weird, questionable things. Um, but yeah, that happens kind of quite frequently. There's a lot of people who just want to, troll me, waste my time, that type stuff, or they just want to, they just want to have a story that's shared. And I'm definitely not opposed to sharing, creepypastas or stuff like that. I just want to be able to know that they are what they are so I can label them, correctly. But yeah, I've definitely been sent some crazy ones. One of the ones that we kind of make jokes about a lot on my channel is the Bigfoot doing the backflip type thing. That's one of the first stories I ever actually was sent. It was a Bigfoot doing a backflip over a trailer, and it was actually one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, this person was 100% serious about this. And they were like, I need to come on to your channel and do an interview about this. And it was just one of the funny things where I was like, are we really doing this right now? I don't know if I'm doing this right now.
Yeah, and see, for me, in that part of our community, when it comes to people, because you want to hear everyone's story and you want to take it is valid until you're proven otherwise. But I think a lot of that trolling, it happens in this community where you have people that are just blatantly coming forward with false stories, and just maybe not even false to where they're just making them up, but just stories where it may have been something that they dreamed potentially, and then pass it off as just a reality. And I think there's a part of the community that kind of, when you have that, and that's why it's great that you vet, and and others vet as well, because you kind of get to eliminate those stories and not let them cloud the narrative. And I just feel like, anyone who takes that step to vet, even in just people retelling stories like for interviews, and even people in the community who are processing stories that someone may be telling, just that ability to vet, or the need to kind of stop and kind of think of what's being said, to feel, is there reality to this, or is this potentially something else? I think there's a service that should be, that definitely needs to be there. And I just wish a lot more people would do that within our community, because there are a lot of really actual, real compelling stories that we should be focusing on, and not really being distracted by someone who just has come up with a great sounding story. So it's great that you do that, and it kind of leads more validity into the stories that people will hear when they come to your channel. And I know I don't need to say it because you have over 300,000 subscribers over there. But if you guys listening have not gone over and subscribed to Swamp Dweller, and you guys probably need to do that, because there's a lot of great stories over there. What would be, I know you were definitely a big part here at Spaced Out Radio. I know we used to have the stories playing here once a week, and everybody was always into that. Would you make your information available to someone on, say, Arrow, right? Say Arrow wanted to kind of, in order to get a idea of what's been going on out there, would you make your data available to entities like that?
I mean, yeah, if they asked, a lot of my stories are definitely sent kind of through the anonymous means, through the website and stuff. And I think that's the biggest kind of thing that makes people want to share so much, is they won't have that, that guilt, or that worry that people will get back to them or not. But I do have a Reddit. You can find lots of submissions on there. The dark, I believe it's the Dark Swamp on Reddit. You can find tons of stories that are submitted there. But yeah, people ask. I get people every so often that'll, send me emails saying they're doing a college paper for this, or they're researching into this, and they'd like to see if I have any stories or experiences or any episodes or something like that might pertain to what they're looking into. And I'm always happy to send them whatever I have. It's not like I gatekeep it in a sense, but I don't have like a public place where I have all of them per se, and that's mainly just for the best interest of everybody's privacy. I know a lot of people, obviously, they want Swamp Dweller to tell their story. They don't necessarily want it out there, because you have a lot of vultures, if you will, who will just take stories and just read them and put them on the channel without permission and whatnot. And I don't own any of the stories, so it's not more like I care. I just don't want other people's stories to kind of get bastardized without their permission and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, man. Yeah, I mean, the confidentiality is key. I just wish that, and maybe there'll come a point to where those people feel comfortable enough to show their identity. I know there's a lot of that goes on in the community as well, where the people are just, first of all, being afraid to tell the story to begin with because of the stigma, and then when they do tell the story, they really want that confidentiality so it doesn't tie to them, so they don't have to be bombarded with people doxing or looking up their information. And so I get that. I just hope that in order to kind of move and push the narrative forward, that people, and maybe they will, as this comes out more, is more on a mainstream level, that all this stuff that we're talking about has validity and is plausible, and it's not happening to just you, it's happening to all these other people, then maybe they get comfortable enough to come out. So I'll just hope that. But kind of moving into your stories, as far as aliens go, right? 'Cause we do cryptids and all sorts of things on here, but what would be your best, as far as what resonated with you the best, alien story that you have, like maybe an abduction or just any kind of encounter?
Surprisingly, I've been sent like a lot of UFO type things, but not many like encounters with aliens, unless you want to count like reptilians as aliens. Um, but I could say like a documentary I did that really stuck out to me that kind of got me a lot more interested into the UFO thing and looking into aliens and other life out there. Was this case in Illinois where all these different police officers in different counties were seeing this triangle shaped craft, and even the Air Force Base has mentions of it and such. That was just flying over all over Illinois, and that was just kind of like a video I made that like just kind of like struck out to me, because it's like, how you have like multiple police officers, radio dispatch records
Yep.
of it. You got the Air Force even mentioning of it, and then at the end of the day, obviously you got your government officials saying, "Oh, it was just military drill, etc., etc." But it was just one of those things to where when you hear the voice clips of the officers on the radio, it's just like that doesn't sound like somebody who's seeing a military drill. It sounds like somebody who's seeing something they've never seen before.
Yeah, that's gonna always be the go-to, and it's crazy because they know that we can't prove that the military is testing the aircraft, because we know that they do, but they'll use that as the fallback. Oh, it was just a military drill. We just did this, and they know that we can't prove that. How do you, when you look at the UFO landscape or just the phenomena period, what is your view on where we currently stand? Like, how do you feel about the conversation about the government interacting with ETs versus the whole outlook of what ETs have planned for us? Do you even get into that? Or if you do, what are your views on that?
I definitely don't get as deep into it as a lot of the people who come onto the show, that's for sure. But I definitely think that, if disclosure is going to happen, it's definitely around the corner. And I feel like we've had a lot of, kind of minimum versions of that kind of happening recently, especially in the US and whatnot, whether it's distractionary to other things or whatever. I feel like it's just, there's a lot of, I think the only thing that keeps me away from UFOs a lot and the aliens and whatnot is that there's a lot of political stuff that ties into it.
Mm,
And I just kind of, it's like, I'm not really a fan of that whole, like, it's this side or that side type thing. I'm more of a, what is this phenomenon? Let's try to understand it. Let's try to get to the bottom of it. Cause obviously we're not the only beings that live in this infinite universe that is allegedly still growing and never stopping. Right. So it's like, obviously there's going to be other planets, and you see scientists all the time talk about, oh, we found this mega earth 50 zillion light years away or whatever. So I'm like, if there's a mega earth or 50 million other mega earths out there, there's got to be other things.
yeah.
Now, I'm not so egotistic as a creature on this earth to think that they would look like humans or whatever. Who knows what they would look like. I'm not, but I'm also not really of the mindset of, oh, these aliens are crazy advanced either. Like, I think I'm in the minority of thinking, like, I just don't know what they are. I just don't know what it is. And I kind of just have that very strong stigmatic approach to where it's like, I don't know. And I don't want to act like I know. And I
Yeah.
don't want to have a belief or a team or a side for something that I don't have any empirical evidence of. I have no idea. It's beyond my understanding. The closest I can say is I do believe that there are aliens. I do believe that there's intelligent life in the world. The closest I can think of is I don't know if space travel makes sense, but if they're interdimensional and can travel through interdimensional means, then makes sense to me. And that's about as deep as I probably really go with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, that's enough. If everybody took at least that perspective on it, then it'd be an easier conversation to have. But like you said, there's two sides that really, the extreme sides of this, where there's either an extreme believer that just believes everything people say, or if there's a hard skeptic that just won't even open their mind up to the possibility of things outside of normal society being possible. So it's good that you take that middle of the road approach and at least have that perspective on it. When you're looking at these cryptids, and I've had different feelings about what's going on there. Do you feel from your research that those cryptids that are seen are things that literally live here full time, or do you feel like these things are like an interdimensional sort of thing as well?
That's definitely a loaded question for sure. But I think personally, um, the thing that got me into cryptozoology was the fact that it was the study of creatures that we just didn't know existed yet. I think there was definitely a time where cryptids kind of went into this more fantastic realm, and I love that. But at the same time, I think it kind of hurts the science as a whole, right? I don't think we're ever going to be seen more as a more than a pseudoscience if we just continuously, look down like the monster path, right? And
Hmm.
that's my favorite part of cryptozoology is back in the early days, we were looking for like these massive footprints of this creature, right? And now Bigfoot has gone from actually a Bigfoot to an actual realistic creature that could just be, anonymous to what we know now. Um, so we went from searching for monsters for searching for answers. And I think that's kind of exactly where I've always fallen through with this. I'm just looking for answers. I want to know. My favorite stories of cryptozoology growing up were like story of Pongo, the man-eating disastrous creature from the African, from African countries, and it just turned out to be great apes. Just turned out to be gorillas.
Mm,
And gorillas, they don't eat people, do they? So it's like, you get these, that's what I'm saying. Like everything comes from a grain of truth. We used to have these crazy stories of incessant unicorn encounters where in Africa, and it's turned out to be rhinos. And then a lot of mermaids turned out to be seals or manatees and stuff like that. And
yeah.
recently we discovered that the kraken exists. The colossal squid. These things exist. We finally can prove it, and that's the thing that I love a lot about cryptozoology is that we have these stories that all come from a grain of truth. But since a lot of these stories come from mythology, folklore, and just culture, deep ancient culture, that people back in the day didn't quite know what they were seeing, and now
Right.
that we have a little bit more hindsight to it, we can explain it. And that's why I think it's a weird thing that might come in here is that I think dinosaurs might have lived a little bit longer than we think, because you see a lot of especially South American cryptid tales that just sound a lot like dinosaurs.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I think if we look for answers, we'll find a lot more fantastic things than you think. It might not always be a shape shifting crazy monster from the Canadian wilderness like a Wendigo or a Washuge, but you do definitely have a lot of crazy animals out there like vampire deer and stuff that you would never think would exist.
Yeah, yeah. And I always, when I try to, kind of open someone's mind up to other things that could be here, I always point to the dinosaurs. I'm like, we have proof that 60-foot lizards were walking on this same ground that you're walking on today. So if that was possible, then how could you even begin to say that none of these other things are happening? I always point to space being infinite as well. Like if you can't even wrap your mind around something being infinite, then which shouldn't be possible according to what we know here on Earth, then or what we experience here on Earth, then you should really have your mind open to other things, or to other things being possible. And then we interviewed a guy named Wild Trees yesterday, he's a microbiologist, and I saw him speak on something one time where he said that it could simply be us discovering a new species of something that we previously didn't know what that was there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that could definitely be a thing, really, because we're just discovering, on the smaller scale, things that we didn't know were there, spiders and things of that nature. And truthfully, before, like you said, with the Kraken, and now we have the giant squid that we've found, and there's definitely, I think, a part of what is being said is potentially things that have been here that are simply just undiscovered, since we haven't even discovered or explored what 80-90% of the ocean for one, and then at least 10% of Earth land surface that we haven't explored. So possibilities are out there. But for some of these cryptids, like Bigfoot, for people who say they've seen them and then these things just disappear in front of their eyes, that's where whatever they're seeing, I think, ties into the phenomena and makes the fact that they disappear something that can't be explained. So there are certain things that I think would not fall under new species and be potentially something that is either stepping in, or has to be stepping in from out of this realm. Because for one, when they go looking for these things, they never find anything. They never find the bones. They never find any bodies. And so that would lead me to believe that they don't exist here, at least full time. And for whatever reason, people are seeing them. One thing that Wild Trees did say that made a lot of sense is maybe when we're seeing these, they're kind of like right out of our scope of vision as far as what our senses can detect. And the fact that they're kind of dipping in and out of our perception or of what we have here. I don't know if you feel like that, but it made a lot of sense. And I think working through this, it's about using logic and then kind of applying that and seeing what's plausible or not. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I definitely think, like I said, anything is possible. I'm definitely open. I call myself a skeptic for the simple sense of like, I don't fall into that category of like, I believe in one thing and that's the end all be all for me. I'm just completely open and I like to hear everything. I like to hear both sides and, just try to, until we find, like I said, that end all be all answer, I don't really fall into a specific side. I'm kind of open to it all. So when I hear all these stories of, these more ethereal type encounters with Bigfoot or Dogman, etc., I definitely believe it because I believe energy. I think everything is energy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's scientifically proven that when you die, even as a human being, energy leaves your body. Now, whether that's your soul, whether, however you want to portray that or, understand that is up to you. But to me, that just shows me that energy is in perpetual motion.
Mhm.
And if there is another timeline, if there is interdimensional travel, if there is anything, whether it be the past, the future, etc., we might sometimes intersect on these timelines to where, like you said, on this peripheral type of vision type thing, then maybe we're just getting a glimpse of that type stuff. But then you also get these encounters that are very much in the flesh, very much on the earth, very earthly. So it makes me wonder, are some of these encounters maybe with, residual energies, or are these energies from a different timeline, etc.? Or, are we just experiencing something different at large, I don't know because I've been, like I said, I've been sent so many stories over the years to where there are so many very real feeling tangible stories to where like, no, this thing touched me, it was real, it didn't disappear. But then there's tons of them where you're mentioning where these things just disappear out of thin air, and it seems like almost both stories are a dime a dozen at this point, to where it makes it almost impossible to say it's one or the other.
Yeah, it's like I said. I mean, it's definitely a thinking mental exercise that we're going through because we're just thinking of going through all the motions of what could be and not having the answers. I think is what makes it fun. I guess maybe if we, not knowing the answers, it keeps us engaged and keeps us interested in the topics. I guess once we know that they're real and that's a fact, maybe it's not as interesting anymore. Um, Now going into, there are a few cryptids that, because I'm new to the cryptid thing. I mean, really, it's one of the onion layers that I'm now on, where I'm now looking at cryptids. Wow, is this thing that is real? And now I'm going down the cryptid path, starting with Bigfoot and Dogman and going down the line. Have you had one of the cryptids that I always have questions about, and maybe I don't know if you have a story about one of these, is a puck wedgie. Have you ever heard of these, and do you have any stories on those?
Yeah, puckwudgies, they're basically kind of like it depends obviously like what what culture you're talking about. But a lot of time puckwudgies are more like shape-shifting little creatures. They're like half troll, half humans usually. They walk upright. They like they're kind of nefarious, right? They'll lure people to mess with them, sometimes to their death. They use magic. They're very popular with these little poison artifacts they have, whether it be spears, arrows, etc. A lot of times, if you're like in the middle of the forest and you see a fire out of nowhere, a lot of times people they'll put that to pugwudgies and stuff. They're mainly just very interesting. Like I said, I don't know, like what we want to put, like maybe goblins. Europe, they're kind of goblin-y. I've also heard of stories of these pugwudgies being more like kind of like mini Bigfoot in a sense. But I think it really just depends where you are in the world. Because some, more in North America, a lot of people say they're more of these mini Bigfoot, like I said. But if you go to Europe, they're more like goblin-y. If you go to South America, they're more almost like gremlins, like these little bad omen creatures. But yeah, it's a very diverse creature, but they all kind of eventually kind of come to the same thing, to where it's a very negative entity. They can disappear at will, shapeshift. A lot of times they'll look like, like I said, like half humans. They can show up as porcupines, coyotes, etc. But usually more like non-conspicuous type animals that you wouldn't really notice or care about, right? Like you see a possum, you're like, oh, it's a possum. Something that wouldn't really catch your attention is kind of what they would be hiding for. There's a lot of stories. I'm probably going to say it wrong, but you got like the Wampanoag, and they have a lot of stories about that, especially throughout North America, where these pugwudgies are super hostile to humans, and they're like taking a lot of revenge against them for deforestation and stuff like that.
Okay, so with 10,000 submissions over the years, if you looking at the scope of things, 10,000-foot view, looking at all the submissions, when it comes to cryptids specifically, does it feel like the overwhelming experience is that they're being reported are negative experiences overwhelmingly, or is there a balance there, or what is your research showing on that?
There's definitely a heavy balance. There's a lot of negative. There's a lot of positive. It kind of comes in waves though. Like I definitely noticed that I'll get a lot of stories that are very negative, very aggressive. Like recently I've been getting sent a lot of aggressive encounters. If you guys are fans of those really like, oh my God, is this kind of going to make it out? Check out the past few Cryptid or Deep Woods episodes. They've been really crazy. But there's also been lots of times where it just seems like they're overwhelmingly positive, in the sense to where like, I don't know what I saw. It wasn't necessarily negative. It wasn't necessarily trying to hurt me, but I saw something that you just wouldn't expect to exist on Earth. I think my favorite one to really kind of talk about or read stories of, and anytime I see the name, I get really excited, is the Raven Mocker. Comes from Cherokee. It comes from Cherokee folklore. It's like it's very similar to a skinwalker type thing, but it's more around like the sick and dying. So whether it could be children sick or dying, or elderly sick or dying, they take the shape of a raven, obviously, and you hear raven calls when they're getting ready to take the soul of their next victim, or the life of their next victim. But they can only be seen like as their actual entity by very specific high trained medicine men. So they're invisible to me or to you, but let's say we get Papa Dave over here coming through, and he's this high leaning medicine man who is trained in these tactics. He can see them and fight them off and ward them off. But that's something that I love seeing stories on, because it has so much history tied behind it, to where like these things could have been real at one point. And I think something that a lot of people overlook in these stories is whether they're physical creatures or whether they exist on this earthly realm or whatever, the power of belief is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get this term placebo that comes from, right? or tulpas in a sense. Tulpas are these things that, like, if you believe in it hard enough, it exists, right? Like Slender Man type thing. So for me, I think that Ravenmockers and even Skinwalkers to an extent are like this power of belief. There's a strong cultural phenomenon attached to this thing. And like that power of belief, that fear makes it more real than it might even be.
So when you said one of those stories that makes you feel like, man, am I gonna get out? Like, what would be an example if you could give us one of those stories?
Um, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, one of those stories you mentioned where whether it's like, oh my, will I get out of this? Like
Oh,
one of
okay.
the more evil stories, I guess. What would be an example of that?
One of the first like feature length stories I ever shared on my channel was a story about a dog man attacking a family farm. And it basically was surrounding an early subscriber of mine who claimed to have been a cryptid and paranormal investigator who was investigating this family's farm, who he thought was dealing with some sort of poltergeist or some sort of haunting at first, but then it quickly turns to figure out, oh no, they're dealing with like this werewolf type creature, and it's killing their cattle at an alarming rate, and now it's starting to mess with the family. And it basically gets to a point to where this guy is roaming the perimeter of their many acre farm at all times of the night. And there's this one time where he's walking alone just inside the tree line, and he comes out of nowhere. He's face to face with this creature. This thing's at least 7 feet tall, this auburn dark red type fur, these deep yellow eyes, and it's just staring into him. And he says, this thing reached up its claw and slashes at him. And if you guys, I have to find the video for you, but I'm sure you can find it on my channel. There's a picture where this guy has this crazy like scratch mark across his chest that looks like a bomb blew up in front of him or something.
Jeez.
And so basically he has a shotgun on him, and he shoots at least, whatever, like, I can't remember exactly what it was in there, but however many rounds he had, he shoots it into this creature. And it runs off, and there's a blood trail and all that good stuff. There's footprints, all that fun stuff. There's images of it all. But the emphasis that he told me, because this was back at the time where I only had a couple hundred subscribers, maybe 1,000 at most, and I still had the time to be able to interview every single person who sent stories into me. So there was a time to where I physically would be talking to you if you sent me a story. And I remember just talking to this guy and just hearing the fear in his voice, to the shakiness, and just like the description of it. It just made it way more real to me. And sometimes I miss those parts of the channel. There'd just never be a way I could do that now.
Right.
But that's a story that sticks out a lot. It's just like, man, this guy essentially stared death in the face. And I could tell you 100 other ones that are maybe not as extreme, where like you got nurses working in nursing homes, and they're like face to face with these dark entities, these shadow people, as you mentioned before. And who knows, is this, a lot of times I get sent these angel of death stories. Like, is this death? Like, is this, what is this, mass in front of you? And to me, I feel like that's just as fearful, seeing this massive werewolf, because you're like, what's going to happen here? Like, this is something that shouldn't be happening. And, it's just more of just like, as human beings, we are so coddled in the sense that we live in these societies, as we mentioned, these cities, and we don't have to worry about this type of stuff like maybe we would have if we were in the Roman times or whatever. And when you do experience something greater than yourself, and you realize you're not the apex predator anymore, I can imagine what that fear feels like. And there's been times where I've been hiking in the woods, and I'm face to face with mountain lions, I'm face to face with brown bears, and all kinds of stuff that have made me basically poop myself. And I'm like, oh man. And so like I think back to those times, and I can really relate, because I've also had those moments at the paranormal where I'm in like I said, I was obsessed with this stuff. So I go to abandoned houses in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee and whatnot. I went to this city that's been abandoned for well over 100 years in Tennessee, called Red Ash. You have to walk 2-3 miles into the woods to find it. And the encounters I had there at 3 a.m. just, like I said, they'll make you see the world in a different light.
Man, that you're brave, buddy. You are so brave for that one. I would never. And it's just, it's just because the things that we use to protect ourselves, like weapons, don't usually from stories don't work on these things. So it's like really you're defenseless when you walk into something like that. And I would love to actually hear one of those shadow stories because I'm dealing with one that's real right here in the house. But before that, I'd want to know what are your views because you deal with all these stories about cryptids, and so you have there's a basis to feel like that what people are saying, especially the stories you vetted that have made it through the vetting process, kind of show that these things are out there. So when you look at a place like Skinwalker Ranch and a show like that, what is your view on that show, the validity? Do you think there's validity to what's happening there? And if you wouldn't mind, kind of taking a look at that.
I've definitely seen all those shows, and my opinion might not be popular, but it kind of comes down to like you got film crews, and when you bring film crews, it comes with a first aid crew, and with that first aid crew comes with everything else that comes with all these productions. Um, when it's kind of like the Finding Bigfoot thing, right? You've got like 20 people with cameras on lights walking through the woods, and then you got like 10 people behind you, 20 people behind you in this perimeter, and you're screaming and shouting and expecting you're going to find something. In my opinion, I just don't think that's how you do this. I don't think that's how you're going to find what you're looking for. I like, obviously, if you look for the truth finds for you, but I think that's a little bit taking it a little too literal, if you will. But I do think that like a lot of these shows, like say like a Ghost Hunters or a Ghost Adventures or whatever, I think they start with pure intentions. I think they definitely want to, they see these mysteries and they're interested in these mysteries and they want to find the end of these mysteries. But I think at the end of the day, it's on television and there's one purpose to television, which is ratings, and which is obviously keeping them paid, basically. TV's a dying thing, so anything that's going to keep an attention span is the same thing on YouTube. At the end of the day, it's all about the ratings, so obviously they're going to do whatever is going to be most beneficial to get people to tune in. So if it's on TV, I'm not too interested in it because I know where that leads. I've been a part of Animal Planet, Netflix, Discovery Plus, all these other things, all kinds of fun, cool things that my stories have been featured in.
Wow.
And I could definitely tell you they play it up a lot. There's been definitely times where I played as like the liaison for Netflix stuff like Paranormal State and whatnot, to where, I've relayed stories or gotten them in touch with people who have sent me stories, and the stories are entirely different when they get on the show.
Oh, the secret is out. I mean, some of us obviously felt that way, but I'm glad that was your answer, because a lot of people wouldn't have given an answer. We've been a lot more PC, and so it's great that's your raw perspective, because once again, it's a needed thing in this space. There's a lot of people that would be angry with you for having a perspective like that, because they end up being on a believing side that just simply believes anything that's put out there, and then they follow behind the show like a Skinwalker Ranch, and without real evidence, because I haven't seen any evidence come out of that show personally that leads me to feel like what is being experienced is a real thing. But I'm always open. Maybe tomorrow they have that and it changes my perspective. But you have a lot of people that just go head first into something like that and will just live and die by what it is that they're being told or seen. So there's definitely a need for more people with that sort of honest, skeptical perspective in this field. And I'm glad, like I said, this could potentially rub some people the wrong way that are on the believer side, but I think that's just a wake-up call for them to kind of recalibrate where their mindset is. And it's something I even have to do all the time, because I'm speaking to people every week that have these different perspectives and feelings and beliefs on what is going on in this field. And I just have to make sure that as a person that is being the conduit for these conversations to come out, that I keep, an open mind and always recalibrate myself. And so I think having the perspective like you just had given there is definitely a wake-up call for, a lot of people in this field to kind of just make sure you're recalibrating and make sure you stay skeptical and that you keep yourself in a open-minded space as we figure this thing out. But with that being said, we're getting close to the end of the hour. I didn't see any questions, unfortunately, which is crazy. So you guys got 10 minutes to go ahead and put some questions in caps so we can give them Swamp Dweller. I mean, when will you ever be able to have your questions directly asked to Swamp Dweller in a setting like this? Please take advantage tonight and get some of those in there, and I'll get them in before we get out of here. But yeah, so like I said, I just appreciate what you're doing for the space. Anyone that has taken the time in 10 years is a substantial amount of time to devote to curating a collection of stories like this. So it's a bravo to you for doing that, and for you to continue to do that is a very important part, I think, being played in the conversation is being had, because I could always, if someone came to me and said, hey, I heard this stuff might be true, and I kind of want to look into more of this, I would direct them right to your channel where you have all this substantial amount of data. So just want to give you your flowers and your props on that, and just especially being you're on the younger scale, so you get to and I guess that'd be a question to ask, because I know in the demographic, I look in channel demographics, from my own personal channel and then other channels, and it seems like the age range for viewership in a subject like this is usually 30s and up, and that's pushing it. It's usually like 40s and up. What are you seeing on your channel? Are you getting a lot of the younger crowd in there, or is it the same demographic?
I actually surprisingly over the years have gotten a more diverse crowd, but when it first started, it was definitely a lot of old people, if you will. It was interesting to be, when I first started, I was 20 years old, and it was interesting to see that the majority of the audience was like 40s, 50s, 60s, and it was something to me that I noticed real quick, that it was a really interesting experience, that all these people kind of respected what I was doing and respected my approach on this. And I haven't really changed in all these years. I've been unapologetically that like middle ground guy, to where it's like I don't really lean to either side. And, that's definitely hurt me in a lot of instances. But starting all those years ago, and I definitely wanted to give a shout out to my man, Scott Martis, rest in peace. I got to meet these amazing cryptozoologists and people who were doing this crazy study on like the champ, like Lake Champlain monster champ, Vic Cundiff as well, just getting to meet these people and then getting encouragement from them to continue my studies into these topics. I definitely noticed that there was a lot of older people, and I think that really comes to, at the end of the day, with age is experience, and a lot of people experience a lot of weird things in their age, whether they experienced it when they were a child or whether they're experiencing it now in an older age. When you get older, I've noticed, even myself and with my own family, like my father and whatnot, that as he gets older, he wants to share more of these things. He wants to, talk about these things, because, as you get older, when are you going to be able to, right? And sometimes you just hear these incredible stories. Going back to the band thing, I've been on tour a lot with my band the past year. We've toured all over the country, played shows all over. And recently I got to go back to Knoxville, Tennessee for the first time in a long time. And I got to meet some friends I haven't seen in many years. And I had a friend that's been in the military until recently. And he was telling me this amazing Bigfoot experience he had with with a couple people on base when they were doing their rounds and whatnot. And it just reminded me again that, you could have people that are 23 like he is, or you could have people that are 63, and they're all experiencing these same things, whether it be different stages of life or, potentially very similar stories. Because the amount of times I've heard stories, and I'm sure you have too, of people in the military seeing things that they can't explain, whether it be Bigfoot, aliens, etc. It just kind of reinforces that thing for me. At the end of the day, it's like, there's too many people experiencing and sharing stories of something. There's got to be something to it. And, definitely I've noticed over the years that it's gotten to be a younger audience, whether it be the emergence of TikTok or whatever. Shout out to like people like Mr. Ballin, who have brought this much younger audience to these cryptids and these missing 411 type stories. Yep. and I've noticed for sure, more 20s, more, you know, teens have gotten into this stuff, and I've seen a definite shift in my demographics for sure.
And I want to definitely keep tabs, keep a line with you on that, and maybe pick your brain on the younger demographic, because I think, if we could find a way to fully engage that younger demographic across the board, I think it'd be helpful, because yeah, the older demographic ufology is, if we want to go back to Roswell, we're almost at the 100-year mark for that. And it's early research. The research crowd is an older crowd, which would explain the demographic, why it would also be an older one. And I think the biggest thing is tapping into that younger demographic. So, and if you've been able to do that in this field, is amazing. So, definitely would love to ask you questions later on about that offline. Also, if you wouldn't mind, because I know we have about 5 minutes left, are you able to give us that story about the person in the military with the Bigfoot? Would that fit within our time here?
Potentially, I could definitely try to condense it as much as I can. It's not a super long story, and
Okay.
I can't give you too many terribly detailed stories because, again, we're at a metal show. I had a few drinks, but I do remember a lot of it because it did stick out a lot to me, and I've gotten to talk to him since. Essentially, he was I can't remember exactly where he was, but he was somewhere in more of the rural area of America. He was on a military base. They were doing their rounds on the outside, kind of checking the base and whatnot, and they saw like this large silhouette. They thought it was a large man in the road. So they get in their vehicle, they start driving towards them. They're like, all right, we gotta, tell this guy to go around. You can't keep coming towards the base. And when they get to it, they notice that this thing is very big, very tall, and it's very hulky, and it's definitely got fur all over it. And they're like, okay, well, this is weird. He tries to shine their flashlight on it, this spotlight or whatever they have on it, and this thing dodges it. Like, it is able to avoid the light like it's like a vampire or something. Like, if that light touches it, it's gone. So it's like dodging it, and he's telling me like this is like almost inhuman speed. Like, there's no way. Like, I would flash it or turn it on, and he would know. There's no way this creature would know that it's being turned on. The After talking to him, I asked him, I was like, does this thing make any noises when you turn on the light? He says, well, it's a slight clicking sound. And it kind of made sense to me because apparently Bigfoots are supposed to have these incredibly keen senses. So maybe it was hearing this click and then moving right in time. But with that said, they tried to follow it. This thing started running towards them at one point. It ran into their Humvee, literally lifted it off the ground at least a foot or two. And it felt like it basically picked up the Humvee and turned it around to make it go back towards the base away from it.
Wow.
And just to keep a long story short, essentially after that, they basically booked it towards there, told their superiors. The superiors basically acted and told them that if you ever mention this anywhere else again, there's going to be some serious problems. And he said, he was kind of even scared telling me, even though we're just in some random bar in, Knoxville, Tennessee. He's like, I feel scared telling you now. And the next time I saw him, I was in Asheville, North Carolina. And, he retold it to me in the car and whatnot. And he was a lot more calm about it. And he was saying, the more I've been able to think about it, the more I've been able to think about what you do and sharing stories with other people, it's been giving me more confidence to share this story without feeling like, hey, I'm doing something wrong. And, like I said, keep that long story short, just it's absolutely insane how many stories I get sent from the military about seeing things like that, about encountering these creatures that make no sense. Or, there's this other famous story on my channel where like they basically sent some Marines out to go fight, Bigfoot at one point. And it's just like absolutely insane because you can do a little bit of research into what public records are available and actually find mentions and instances of these things. And it makes you just feel like, wow, there's gotta be more to this.
Wow. How do we end like that, man? Swamp Dweller, you are awesome, man. And I just want to say, you with over 300,000 subscribers, you are making a huge impact in this space. And you're like a beacon of light right now in this space. And just know that you're playing a really important part in the overall scope of and you're affecting other people as well. So continue success with everything that you're doing. And they should know, hopefully, but if you wouldn't mind telling everybody where you're at and what you're up to.
I'm pretty much everywhere, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. Just search Swamp Dweller and I will definitely pop up. I've definitely been going through some transitional stuff the past couple of months, but I'm back on a pretty hard grind recently, and I'm just invigorated right now. I'm excited to share these mysteries and these stories. If you got stories yourself that you'd like to share on the show, swampdweller.net or swampdwellerreads at Gmail. And I'd love to share your story and, get to know you guys a little bit more, and going to try to get back on that grind for you guys.
That's what's up. Appreciate that. And yeah, I'll be reaching out to you, man. I'm just glad to meet you at this point, really. So it was awesome to know that we had this set up and we're able to actually go through with it. So Swamp Dweller, thanks so much for coming on in tonight. I know everybody enjoyed it, and we will be talking again soon, man. So keep your ear open, and I'll reach out at some point down the line.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you want me on, just let me know. I'm definitely happy to do it.
Okay, Swamp Dweller, I will call you on that. And thank you so much. You have a good rest of your night and have a great week. Take care, man.
You too.
All right, later. All right, guys. The awesome Swamp Dweller. Yeah, man, it was a great show, man. I really love it. And we're going to be going into hour 3. But first, we're going to take a pause for the cause as we get ready to go into the third and final hour right here at spacedoutradio. So you guys kick back. Don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. As we get ready to jump into the third and final hour, just want to go ahead and stop real quick and give a shout out to all the space travelers, right? You're already a space traveler. Consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can be a space traveler and join our Patreon, become a space traveler in Space Travelers Club. Is $5 a month. Please consider doing that right here at Spaced Out Radio as we get ready to go into this third and final hour and bring in our person of the hour. As you can see on the screen, we are going to welcome Jax Harmon with the Paranormal Report. Let me make some room for Jax as she comes on in. Hi, Jax. How are you this evening?
Hi. I'm good. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. We're at the end of the week. You know, we got a short week, and then we're gonna meet up in Reno. So face-to-face meetings. I can't wait, man. I'm getting excited.
I know. Me too. I'm
Yeah,
already
so,
all packed. I'm literally getting all my stuff ready.
you know, I'm a procrastinator. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't even started packing yet. I'm a last-minute packer, and I shouldn't be that. I'm ashamed to say it, but yeah, that's me.
I could never. Would blow my mind.
I know, but my girl, she feels the same way. She gets packed like 2 weeks ahead of time, and she always comes in. Are you have your stuff packed? And I'm like, yeah, you know, not yet. But and then the day before, I'm sitting here rambling through and trying to do that. It's
I'm
bad.
like, yeah, you're the one that always forgets everything. Oh, I forgot to pack my underwear.
It's bad. Look, all the way to the last minute when it's time to leave, and I'm still putting the last thing in there. It's bad. I'll admit it though. That's me. I'm sorry, but. Yeah, with that being said, we're going to share some great stories tonight and then obviously also in Reno. So we're going to do the live show there on Friday, 3 to 6. And then I don't know what Dave is planned for as far as broadcasting for the weekend. I know we're going to run the rerun shows, but maybe we come through and do a little live or something and, you know, on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, might as well, right?
Yeah, might as well. We're going to be together.
Exactly. With a lot of great guests as well and the fans. Can't wait to meet you guys. So, you know, be excited because it's about you guys, and we want to hang. And we're going to follow you guys around. So wherever you guys go is where we're going to go. We're just going to follow you all around all weekend. So should be fun. But now getting into the Paranormal Report, Jax, we had Swamp Dweller on here. I don't know if you're familiar with Swamp Dweller. We used to air his stories here every week. And it's always been fantastic, the stories that he has submitted into him and then he retells. Did you have anything that kind of resonated with any of the stories? As he talked about cryptids, UFOs. Did you have
yeah,
anything?
for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a little while, and it kind of resonated with what we had talked about last week, which was, you know, how our vibrations and everything about like what the energy with the cryptids and everything and like how we live our lives and all that. And it started making me think about, I used to be a person who was very much like against the orbs. Okay. I know there's a lot of people out there in the paranormal who are like, oh, orbs are nothing. They're dust. They're, you know, light, whatever, something's going on. But I was kind of like that myself for a really long time. And I started having experiences with orbs at a very young age, but really not like the kind that people would send me. And people would constantly send me these videos and pictures like, what is this? What is this? And of course, I could tell immediately, okay, it was either a bug on a camera lens or, you know, maybe a bug on the front porch or, you know, something, some dust or whatever. And I said, you know, I have a solution for that. It's called pledge.
Right.
People didn't really like that, but, you know, but I started coming around because I started realizing that there are orbs that are very much connected with like Bigfoot and the entities that are around us, the spirits and darker, you know, orbs and brighter orbs. They actually all come in like a rainbow of colors. A lot of people don't see them like that, but there are several people who will say, I've seen them from a range from, you know, white, silver, gold, yellow, red, green, blue, you name it. Okay. And a lot of these are very much connected with individual things. Like, for instance, like he probably talked about at some point, the orange lights that are connected very much with like Bigfoot. And when people are out in the woods and they start to see lights, majority of the time it's 3 lights and they're usually orange. Sometimes they can be very bright or almost kind of like a off-white. But I've seen them, and a lot of people that I know who have been out looking for Sasquatch have also seen the exact same ones. But usually that's what kind of goes hand in hand with the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch are the orange lights or orbs. Okay. And then you've got different ones that are connected to, say, spirit, where more people see white. Now, white is considered to be light, meaning like in death of like light of, you know, a spirit from heaven visiting, coming to see you or something. And then, of course, you know, there are people, and for instance, like I had mentioned this before, but a friend of mine that you guys know on the show as well, Lee Strauss, had shown me a picture of black orbs. And that was actually outside. So when you get something where it's like a black mist, or for instance, black orbs, that is a sign of danger. Something's either trying to warn you, or there's something else like an entity there that is dark and negative. Like another thing that we had talked about, the vibrations of how we are as people and what we pick up on. That's kind of what happens, like when you walk into the woods or you walk into a house or you walk into a building of any kind, that energy picks up on our vibration, and that's where the orbs come, like they want to connect with us. And I don't know if you've ever seen an orb in like a different color, but I'm really starting to kind of come around more with like knowing that they are distinct to different things. And I've heard so many different people tell me, like, I see blue orbs, or maybe sometimes like green orbs, and that'll be more alien related. Like people who go out sky watching will often see purple, green, blue, sometimes pink, just different colored orbs. But I find it very interesting because, you know, like I said, that was something that I kind of was like, I'm not really so much thinking that's much of anything. And then it started, you know, coming around more and more over the last year or so. And just within probably the last month, I've been hearing a lot more about how they're very distinct colors and what their meanings are. So I find them very interesting, but yeah, it is something that I feel like is connected in that world. And I tell me something about like what he talks about, and then, you know, maybe all that'll like trigger my memory of like what he has said.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't really get to really talk about orbs. That's actually one of the things we didn't get to talk about. But he essentially, you know, the stories are submitted by viewers and users, and they actually, and then he retells those stories on his channel. So he has pretty much the gamut of stories that could be told. I'm sure orbs are in there as well.
Oh yeah.
But looking at orbs, you know, because I've never personally seen an orb, but you know, just like you said, the feeling for me when I first started looking at orbs is like, what could that represent? Like it's in orb form. It doesn't appear to be anything physical like a spacecraft, but then you hear people to say they've seen these things morph into a spacecraft. And then also you've heard people say that they've seen orbs, and then right after that they get a Bigfoot sighting. So is this thing morphing into a Bigfoot at that point? Then you have skeptics that talk about orbs, and they look at orbs and they try to explain them away as atmospheric conditions, like ball lightning, things of that nature. So I never really put a lot of stock into orbs either until I had my own sighting where I felt like that maybe these things do represent something physical, but I don't know. How do you really, you know, it's like a ball of plasma, right? As far as
I mean, you know, like I said, we talked about this last week about the energy, and it's literally like it's a way of it showing itself to us, letting us know what it's feeling and what it wants from us, you know, like you might have an white orb where it's very, very, very bright white, which is probably like we had talked about before, maybe someone that you knew that passed on that's trying to communicate with you or just check on you. But that's a very bright white is very positive. That's a very high frequency feeling. So, it could be something like celebratory, like it could be your birthday or a new baby in the family or a wedding or something that maybe that, person who's passed on is just coming in to like, enjoy that moment with you. I mean, it could be just as simple as that. But and then you've got different colors where sometimes you'll see like say a blue orb or a green orb where that might mean something more like you might be dealing with anxiety like we had talked about. You might be dealing with something that's really happy, that just depends on like I know it's hard for me to memorize like all the colors because honestly God, there's probably like 20 different ones that have different meanings. And I try to stick to the ones that people normally see, but I've had people tell me like, oh, I see red orbs and I don't feel good when they come around. Well, that's probably a warning. Something's probably telling you, don't go near whatever it is you're wanting to do. Don't do something that you're wanting to go do. Or maybe that's trying to tell you in a way, like maybe that's not a good path for you to take. But I really do feel like there are like their messages, I guess I want to say, like it's a message of, it's either good or it's something that's helpful. Maybe it's something that's trying to warn you. But I really do actually have an understanding more now of like what they are, what they mean, what they represent, and that apparently they've always been there. But like I said, like you and I both agree that I was at a time where I kind of just brush it off. Like, I don't really, take a lot of stock in like the whole believing in the whole orb thing. But, after several experiences of my own and then talking to other people who've had these experiences with different color orbs and saying, this is what I was going through and this is what I saw. This is what I was going through and this is what we got on camera, So there's that proof now. And it doesn't matter who you are. Every one of us walks around with a camera,
Right.
literally in our hands. And I think that's why more and more people are coming around to the idea that there's proof now. There's way more proof. It's not just stories from the past, there's
right.
constant video and pictures of these things. So, and I think that validates.
And it almost, I mean, listening to you talk about that, I'm thinking as you say this, and so kind of looking at it, I guess a way to almost describe what you're saying is that potentially these orbs are almost like tapping into your energy, right? And I guess a way to describe it would be like a mood ring or
Exactly.
like a
That's a good way to
chlorine
think about it.
strip
Yes.
that shows the detection of this energy in the area. That makes a lot of sense, right? Like a visual
Yes.
indicator
That's
of
a great
the
way of
energy.
describing that.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people who, anytime that I've seen orbs, as far as like on video,
Mhm.
they are always in the sky. But then you have those stories about people saying that these orbs have come down to the ground and kind of passed through vehicles and passed through people. And I wonder what that's about. Have you ever thought about
Okay,
that?
that is so bizarre that you would say that because that is so crazy. I was literally just about to tell you I had an experience, and this is one of the reasons why I'm starting to more and more come around with the colored orbs and the different ones. This was years ago. This was probably like, oh gosh, long time ago. I'm going to say like maybe 25 to 30 years ago. This is a long time for me. Okay. I was actually driving down this really long road. My parents lived way out in the country, about 25, 30 miles away from town. And we were driving back into town. And I can't remember exactly what we were going to do, but we were just on our way in. And out of nowhere, this blue ball of light shot across the street, went like literally inside my car, went through the car out the he was driving, I was in the passenger seat, went out my side and shot out into like this, like a it's like just like a bunch of trees. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like olive trees or something out there. And we just kind of sat there, like looked at each other like, what was that? Like it was just like a shot of light right through it, but you could see it clear as day. It was blue.
Mm-hmm.
And we never did understand what that was, but it was just a clear, like ball of light, but it was fast. It went so fast by. And we kind of just like I said, we brushed it off, never really talked about it too much after that. I think maybe once we said something about it and it was like never again. So yeah, so it's really interesting that you would say that.
And I think that's actually an awesome way to, like, research wise and data wise, to kind of maybe take that angle on it, because really I've only heard you know, explanations like okay, we see it and we think it's this, we think it's a craft in orb form, or we think it's Bigfoot in orb form. But when you get into maybe giving explanations on, because they are often seen changing colors or displaying one particular color, sometimes they're blinking through a bunch of different colors, and that literally could be some sort of way of communication at some point, like them making us aware of even what you said, the energy or something going on with you personally. So it's an interesting angle. And then just being able to maybe build a database as well, like a catalog of what these colors might represent, and kind of using that template with future encounters and sightings to see if it lines up, to kind of, because there could be something there when you're talking about that.
Exactly. And literally it's basically just about communication. They're communicating, they're coming, like I said, it could be anything from the brightest light to the darkest. And it's all about you know, communicating, you know, like I said, coming in, looking, checking, you know, they're always around us. The energy, we're surrounded by it. And they actually have access to come in and out. You know, a lot of people believe like once you pass on, you're on, you that's it. There's no coming back. But the reality is that they really are always around us. They see us. They really live amongst us in their way. And that's just their way of letting us know, like when we need to see it, we'll see it. And sometimes, you know, if something's going on and, you know, there needs to be a warning of some kind, they're going to help us. That's what they're trying to do. It's spirit guide. And that's just like every single person on earth has a spirit guide. And if you believe in that or not, we all have that. And it's like that gut feeling, you know, like when you just have that gut feeling of like, I shouldn't do that, or something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
They're helping us with that. You know, that's actually your spirit guide helping you to know like something's not right for you. Don't go there. Don't do that. So, you know,
I feel the same way about that. Yeah, like a good the devil and the angel, and that voice that you talk to inside of your mind, I feel like is the one that's connected to the energy and is trying to help direct your physical you, which and usually that voice is always right, and that's why they say go with your gut and those sort of things, because that voice is usually giving you the proper information. And it, when you think about that, it's like, wow, okay, it's not you talking to yourself in your head, it's actually a higher connected, enlightened you trying to guide the dumb human version of you, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're human and we're going to make mistakes, but thank God that, you know, we actually do have, you know, spirit guides in the world, helping us get through this time here on earth. Like, you know, if you believe it, like I said, you don't believe it, either way, they're there, you know, if you want to like help. Matter of fact, they actually do help you with many things. Like, I believe in manifesting. Okay. I absolutely believe that if you put something out to the universe, you're putting that out every time you open your mouth and you say, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. This is what, this is the plan. And these are my goals and I'm sticking to it. Set a goal and do something. You're putting that out there and they're actually helping you with those decisions. They're helping you make those, goals and get that manifestation out there and make it happen. It's just, they're always there to help us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I feel that way as well. And, going further into the whole orb thing, I was just thinking here, as we were talking about maybe it's a form of communication. Maybe that's been the thing the whole time, because when I think of an orb, I'm like, why? Like, if I'm from the ET's perspective, like, why would an orb glow? Like, what is the purpose unless it's meant to be visually seen? They know it's there, so it's not for them. So it has to be for us to realize that it's there first off. And then the second part of that is to figure out why it wants us to know it's there. And then, maybe that goes into the sequence of lights and blinking that it does. And maybe this whole time, it's been just an open line of communication this whole time. Like, they're literally trying to communicate when this is happening, and we just don't perceive it that way or realize that that's what's taking place. And they're literally trying to make direct contact by talking to us through this method. That's Absolutely. A crazy thing to think about.
Well, even like, especially the like Gen X people in the world who are like, I'm Gen X. Even like when we were kids and teenagers, we're basically told to like suppress everything. You know what I mean? And even believing in the aliens and the Bigfoot and anything, like, of course I was raised differently, but that's mainly like how we were taught. And it's like, that's not real. That's fake. That's not real. And they're kind of just pushing that down. And a lot of times it takes us until we get to a certain age where we're really able to open ourselves up to these things. And even though I've had the paranormal in my life for literally majority of my life, even I, at times, like I said, find myself now starting to kind of come around with this whole orb thing. And it's like, why did it take me so long to get there where I believe, like, okay, I've actually visually seen orbs. I've had that experience in the woods. I've had that experience in the house. I've actually had multiple pictures taken with my children where there'll be orbs in our pictures. I mean, like, I'm talking like orbs, not like dusty orbs. Okay. You can tell there's something like there. And we'll often sometimes have like an orb in the picture, and then you'll see something move in the picture and then maybe come back and it's in the exact same spot. It's very interesting, but they're showing us that they're there. And that's their way of showing us, like, look, I'm here. I'm communicating, exactly like you said. So definitely.
It makes me lean into, because I don't know if when I start thinking about that, I go further, obviously, down the rabbit hole. So I would think that, if the government is not in this face-to-face meeting with the ETs, maybe it's simply that the government has learned to communicate with them through that method, and there never has been a face-to-face meeting, but we've deciphered their method of communication. The governments have, at least, which I could see that as being plausible, because I know we have people within the government that look into breaking codes and things of that nature. It's a big thing, right? And so it would make sense that maybe they have been able to decipher this code, and they have communicated in that method with ETs. That makes a lot more sense than a face-to-face sitting at the table meeting where you're shaking hands and agreeing. Maybe this is probably more the plausible method. And I think you've opened up a can of worms there, really, because I think that might be a good focus for people within ufology to take that perspective of what might be going on there, because we don't know if it is or it isn't, but it really sounds good. And logically, when you put logic to it, then it makes sense, right? So,
well, Rob, the one thing I do always say, and for anyone who's listening, I say this all the time. I do not consider myself an expert in anything, nothing in life, because I believe that if you consider yourself an expert, it means you have no growth. You have nowhere else to go. You know it all. You're basically just a know-it-all of information. And I am not that. What I'm doing is just taking my own personal experiences and learning from them, sharing them, and what others have shared with me. Now, if you think about it, like say 15, 20 years ago, there weren't that many people in the paranormal. Okay.
Right.
There are thousands of people now in the paranormal, and we're all sharing this information. We're videoing and we're editing and we're doing like all these things to get like exactly that one moment of like when something happens, to share that. And so now you literally have like not only just the government, who I believe have known forever. Okay. Like that's been going on way back when. I'm talking World War II, things were happening, ET style.
Right.
and on. But now when you really think about the depth of how many people in the paranormal have come out, and they'll say, I've got UFO footage, I've got, spirit footage, Bigfoot footage, or whatever. And that's what's really compelling, is that evidence and that learning, and teaching each other like what these things really mean. I mean, that's where you get the information.
And it's laughable. That's why it's laughable to me, and it perplexing. Really, it's laughable and perplexing at the same time. How people in this field did know that. I mean, you can see that the data is here. Like different people who have cataloged data and just experiences and experiencers that you talk to. So with all this data here, it's always perplexing to me why people within the community overlook all that and still want to focus on what the government is doing with this. Like why would you overlook? You're from this community, so you know what we have here, and so why bypass all that and then invest your energy into how the government is handling it? Are they going to admit that this stuff is happening, which we know it is because we have the proof? So why bypass that and look at the government and spin our wheels and waste our time waiting for them to kind of comply with the data that we already have? They're doing the same thing we're doing. They've been collecting data the same way we are for even longer. And so it's they have the same proof that we do.
Exactly.
So why lean on them?
Well, a lot of people, and even in the paranormal, and I don't understand this, is I will sometimes hear people say, well, the government hasn't said that, or the government hasn't shared that with us, and so that can't be true. And I'm like, but have you gone out? Have you done your own investigating? Get your own data, Right. They're doing the same things you can do. We can literally go outside and investigate the skies just like they do. Yep. There are things in the skies around us all the time. I actually know this man that lives in LA, which is about an hour away from where I live. And he has UFO proof from his own home. He literally lives right there on the coast. He's got UFO proof of things flying by, and a lot of people around there know him. I can't say his name because of what's going on with him. He's got a lot going on where people just are giving him a hard time about how much footage he has. But he literally has like UFO drones that fly in, check out, like it'll be a helicopter, it could be a jet going by or anything, and all of a sudden this thing will fly in right next to it and check it out and fly off, and it's like within a matter of seconds. But he's got this camera that picks these things up, but our government doesn't know what it is. I literally went to a military base with this man to talk about these things, and they don't know. They're literally like, we can't tell you, we don't know. So they don't know everything, but they seem to pretend like they do.
Well, I think the thing is that they, for the obvious reasons we've always talked about, the power struggle and how they don't want to give that up. So I know they sit up there every day and they look at our community and they send people in to infiltrate and cause dysfunction within the community too. I totally believe that. And I think it's really mainly because they look at our data that we have. They look at the MUFON database. I don't know if they actually look at it, but they know that they collect data there, and they know that New Fork does the same thing. So just those two entities, along with the experiencer stories, I know they're looking at it like, hey, these guys actually have all the answers. They just don't realize that they do. The only difference that I feel like between our database and the government's database is the government has the ability to and the muscle to get out there and retrieve craft and bodies, and we don't have that ability. So that's the only part of the story that we don't have. But we have enough data to know that we see these things in the sky. We know that they've landed and things have gotten out. So we have all this. We just don't have the craft. And I think they see that and they're like, man, they don't really realize what they have. Let's keep them distracted and divided as much as possible, because if they ever sat down for a moment and got together and really looked at what they had, then they would realize that they don't need anything from us in confirming this. And I think that's kind of what they're doing. And they're just kind of laughing at us because the community is so divided and divisive, and we're just at odds. And
it's sad. Yeah, it's so sad that it's like that, because I've always said, and anyone who really truly knows me in the paranormal knows I'm kind of like the paranormal Switzerland. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really go there. Like, if you have a problem, that's your problem. It's not my problem. I don't get into the drama. If people love me or like me or hate me, that's all. Whatever you feel, you feel. It does not affect me. Okay. I am the most easygoing, down to earth person you'll ever meet in your life. I am true, every ounce of my soul. But I don't do this for attention or please people. I do this because it's my soul. It's a piece of me. It's what I grew up doing. It's my passion, but it's a huge part of me as a person. And the greatest part about this conversation too is, like, when you're saying like we don't really need them, the fact of the matter is you're so right, because you know how many people are out there who've had the literal personal connection with the extraterrestrials, have been abducted. I mean, I know many people who have told their stories, who have the experiences. I've never had that experience. I'm not sure I'd want that experience. I mean, when I hear these people talking, it sounds frightening.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about, like, do I have to worry if something's going to beam in and take me and who knows what? I don't know. I don't know if that's an experience I want. Now, Bigfoot, on the other hand, sign me up. I'm down. I will go anywhere in the world and find Bigfoot in a heartbeat. And if I see it, great. And if I don't, that's fine. I'll go for a good time. But there's a lot about the extraterrestrial life that, kind of is scary. It's quite scary.
It definitely is, because here's the thing. You're talking about something that is super intelligent, more intelligent than you, more aware than you. And to have this thing that's so more superior than you, to be able to stand in your presence, and you're like in the literal like face to face with one of these things. And that's the thing. And like I said, I'll always say it. If it happens, I can't stop it from happening. But at the same time, if I'm sitting there face to face, if something just materializes in front of me and it's this really intelligent thing looking at me, I mean, it's a scary thing. But here's the thing, like, people in the community, when they hear us say that, then they'll immediately jump to, there's nothing to be afraid of, don't fear monger, and that's fear mongering, and you stay away from that. No, it's not really that. It's just being smart, for one, and being because in the wild, an animal that isn't alert and on its P's and Q's is going to get eaten, and that's just the way it is. You have to be aware of what's possible, what your surroundings are, and in this case, when you have something that is literally higher than you, you should be kind of cautious and aware around something like that.
Yeah, it's all about safety. I mean, look, have we ever had an alien invasion? No. Could there be one? Yeah. I mean, listen, if you for 1 second think that we're the only beings in this universe, you're crazy. Like, there's no way. I mean, there's obviously, we have way too much proof, you know. We see things. Things are happening. People are being abducted. It's just out there. The proof is there. So, you know, for anyone to say otherwise, you're naive. But, you know, bottom line, it's like I kind of compare this one thing, and I know it's not the same, but it's the only way for like humans sometimes to understand like that feeling of, there's a lot of people in the world who are afraid of flying. And I sometimes have to remind people it's not really the flying you're afraid of, it's the dying.
Yeah.
You know? And I
Yeah.
think that's what people think, like, oh, if I fly, I'm going to die, you know? And it's like, that's just that fear of like, I'm off the ground, and if something happens, that's it, we're dead. Okay, well, you're actually safer in a plane than you are in a car.
Yeah, I've heard
Believe it
that.
or not, you really are. But I understand the fear. I get it. I'm not really afraid of flying. I'm not fond of turbulence. That scares the crap out of me. But
Yeah.
I do understand the fear of, like, say there was an alien invasion and all of a sudden there are aliens everywhere and they're coming in your home. I think every single person on earth is going to be in fear. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Well, here's the other part of it. So when we get on these planes, and yeah, it's the fear of that thing falling out the sky, and there's nothing you can do to control that. It's just your fate. It's the end. That's just what's going to happen. So, you know, but here's the part that can be avoided and could allow people to just put themselves or set themselves up for success and not defeat. And that's if we know, and if we're able to get the message to everyone else to know what's going on. We know within ufology from different encounters that these things shut off electronics on aircraft. They've done it many times. And so my question has always been, if we have these military pilots who just regular personal private pilots who have given all of these descriptions of times where they were flying and all of their instrumentation went out, but you never had an official story from the commercial airline market, what are the chances that these other planes experience power outages from ETs, but the commercial flights don't? Why has there never been a story told where a commercial flight lost power during flight because of a craft? It statistically, it has to have happened in the past. So it leads me into believing or wondering. It leads me into wondering if some of the crashes and things that we have had over time,
do
they have anything to do with that? Because the FAA gives the final word on what they've investigated, whatever their investigative branch is, but they say, oh, it was this piece of instrumentation that failed and that's why it happened. But was there ever a realization at some point, but obviously they didn't tell us, that ET shut off one of those planes and it's the reason why they crashed? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I actually have thought about that. You know, these are things that I actually do think a lot about this kind of stuff. I actually do think about this. I actually had a really good friend of mine that is a pilot. And we actually had a conversation about this one time many years ago, probably about 5-6 years ago. And I remember him telling me, I specifically asked him, we used to work out at the same gym and we would talk about these things. And I would ask him, like, you know, do you guys actually ever see anything? Or, you know, why don't you guys report anything? There's never reports of anything. And he literally told me that they don't put it out. If they do actually get reported, they won't share the information with people. They're too afraid that people will stop flying and shut down. People, you know, basically the airlines will just shut down because people won't want to fly anymore. So they just don't share their stories. I'm like, that's crazy.
That's selfish and sad. And it's all done for the dollar. I mean, it's, you know, I always said, I would like to know, even though there's never been confirmation that they've ever shut off a plane, you know, but my whole thing is that if it's true, if it's ever happened, I would like for that to be at least spoken. That way, people can make a choice if they want to board that plane or not. I mean, it should be our choice to know if we want to put ourselves or put ourselves in a position where that could be possible. I would rather find out that this is true on the ground than at 35,000 feet in the air. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And just give me the chance to know this so I
Yeah.
can consciously make a decision.
Yeah, so true. And here we are talking about all this, and we're all about to fly.
I'm driving. I'm
Well,
yeah.
let me just tell you guys something, a little funny something. Okay. I am not in any way, shape, or form afraid to fly. Okay. I actually do love to fly. I feel it's very safe. I enjoy flying. Like I said, I am not a fan of turbulence. Okay. Now, my daughter, on the other hand, when there's turbulence, it's like she's on Disneyland ride. She's laughing. That thing could drop out of the sky 10,000 feet. She'd crack up.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
It drops even the tiniest bit. I'm holding on to the seat. I am praying to God.
Yeah, me too.
I know I'm about to die. I'm going to kiss my butt goodbye. But
Definitely.
honest to God, like I cannot take it. But let me tell you, the worst turbulence I have ever had in my life, twice in my life, was to Reno.
Wow.
So
Oh,
let me
mark my
tell you,
word.
I'm popping a Zanny this time.
Please do. Usually, what I'll do is I'll get a couple of those little shot bottles, like 2 or 3 of those, because when you're at altitude, it affects you a little more. So I'll get them from the stewardess and crack a couple of those, and
There
then
you
maybe
go.
go to sleep for the trip. But yeah,
Well,
it's
excuse me, I'm here with Woo Radio.
because I don't think we're here. We don't have wings. I think we were supposed to be on the ground. We're not really supposed to be up there like that. So that's one thing. But then, yeah, the second part of that, I would hate to find out, at 35,000 feet that these things do affect those planes too. And it just, you can't have, the plane is a single thing. And regardless if it's a military plane, or a private plane, commercial plane, they're all planes. They all essentially operate on the same idea. So you would definitely fully expect that if military planes and private planes have been affected many times with their things going out and crashing in some cases, that this has happened to those. Now, to put it, and I don't want to put any conspiracies out there, but other people are already talking about this. The MH370 flight has never been found, right? And then things that go into the flying the Bermuda Triangle and never get found.
Absolutely, the Bermuda.
Well, what's happening to those things? Let's try to get an answer on that. And maybe it's related to ETs. Maybe they're flying through portals, or I don't know what exactly is going on, but we can't just not look at that and just kind of brush it out our mind, because it's something that's happening and people should be made aware of it. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that I do believe there are portals, and that I do think that there are some planes that have probably gone through a portal. Now, is it over Bermuda Triangle? Maybe that's where one of them exists. Like I actually just watched a show about a month ago, and they were doing a test in the water about over the Bermuda Triangle, and there was actually an area, I can't remember the name of the show, but they did a test where under the water, the sand around was getting sucked down, literally, like they were watching it, all of it getting sucked down to the bottom. And I thought, like, where's that pull coming from? Like there's got to be something there, like a magnetic pull or something. I don't know what it is, but who knows?
yeah, I watched a show recently where and I never thought of this, but they were trying to display the fact that we have these crafts, USOs, that go in the water, and like, where are they going and what are they doing? And then they showed like the ocean floor, and they showed like a huge hole that just went down into the ocean floor. And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, because if you have a hole at the bottom of anything, if it doesn't go for infinity, then water will obviously come and go in the hole, fill it up, and then fill the rest. So you would never know that hole was there.
Exactly.
Right. And then if we have all this ocean that is unexplored, like potentially there's something there like that. And maybe the government knows, which is why they don't do any further exploration of, or they do a secretly exploration of the ocean floor. But
Mhm.
there's definitely things like that they might know that we could never find out because we can't get to the bottom of the ocean as
Yeah.
humanity. But even with that said, I think we have enough evidence otherwise to be able to say that the rest of the stuff is going on, and then try to get those other questions answered down the road. So
100%. Absolutely.
definitely. So let's see where we're at. We got about 9 minutes left. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to wrap the show up, Jax. I appreciate you coming on in.
Yeah, of
Another
course.
awesome week here, Spaced Out Radio. And we'll both be in Reno next week. So we
I
won't
know.
be
I
doing
can't
anything next week.
wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. So guys out there, at the very least, please tune in for that show on Friday. It's gonna be awesome. I want to try to get you guys involved in that. So like I said, if we are able to get you guys to kind of jump on stage and kind of maybe say a word or two,
Of
just
course.
be ready for that. And then maybe we can make that work out.
That'll be great. I'll love it. And like you said earlier, you were saying like, oh, we'll be following everybody around. Please, if anybody out there is watching, listening, and you're coming, please feel free to come up to us and hang out with us and talk to us. Like, we are such easygoing, fun people.
Exactly.
We're fun to hang around.
we will be having breakfast for dinner with Dave Scott while we're there. Period. He says, no, you guys are being disrespectful.
We are.
I say no. I say breakfast for dinner is an excellent choice. And this is what we're going to do. So we won't say what day we're going to do it, right? Because we don't want to tip them off that way, but we will do that. So be prepared for that. And with that being said, Jax, thanks for coming on in.
Oh,
Let's
you're
do
welcome.
this again. We will do this again, and I'll see you live in person.
Absolutely. Can't
Thursday
wait.
night, actually. Thursday night.
Yes, I'll be there.
All right, Jax. Well, thanks
You
so
guys
much for
then.
coming in. You have a great rest of your night, and see you
You
then.
too. Bye, guys.
Take care. All right, guys. Yeah. Great show, man. Great show. Love it. Love it. Fantastic show. I mean, yeah, I usually, feel okay, during the show. And then I rewatch the show and I'm like, oh, okay, it was definitely better than I felt. We always want to commit to raising the bar here at Spaced Out Radio, which is what we're doing, right? We're attempting to do that. We want to make sure that this weekend show is hitting on all cylinders. And I think we have gotten very, very close. There's still a couple things that we're working through that I would like to have done. That we should be implementing within the next few weeks to kind of really solidify and make this like a consistent top level viewing experience. And, I'm committing to do that. All feedback is welcome. And we have a comment section down below where you could drop your ideas, your concerns, your recommendations, and kind of just, feedback is welcome here. So definitely continue to let us know. And we'll continue to take those ideas and thoughts into consideration because that's just what we do. It's just as much you as it is us here, Space Out Radio, which is why the chat is always bumping and why anytime a new person comes in to view the show, they always compliment on the experience that they had in the chat. And me, myself, prior to hosting this show, and even during the week, right, when Dave is on, I'm a chat member as well. I'm in there with you guys, chatting it up. And I feel the same way about the community, which is why I really love and appreciate, the participation and the ideas and thoughts that you guys go ahead and implement into the audience out there. So, this is a show that should be higher rated, and we strive to actually get it to that point. So I'm so excited about where we're going. We are growing as a channel, which is awesome. And yeah. So with that being said, we have a few minutes here, right? So let's just hang out for a minute. We got like maybe 4 minutes here. So what I'll do, let me run a couple of these commercials promos because we should be doing this every show. We don't have ugly swag, guys. If you haven't had a chance to view our swag shop, please make sure you go over there, spacedoutradio.com/shop. We got a lot of awesome stuff, just like the alien head Rob G right there. We got that on t-shirts. We got that on socks. We got that on draws. We even got the Rob G draws. Shout out Castle Dude who copped a pair of Rob G draws. We got Dave Scott draws and all sorts of other stuff there. We got everything that you need. We even got onesies for the baby. So if you have the niece, nephew, grandchild, son, daughter that could get swagged out, definitely make sure you dip into the shop and get yourself some swag. So let me go ahead and run that commercial before we get up out of here.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your S.O.R. swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
For one of the final times, it's kind of hitting me, right? This is probably one of the final times. It is, especially for after hours, final time that we will be running this Reno commercial. So it's kind of bittersweet because we'll have to put it in the archive. But here we go, right? So last time we're running the Reno commercial at after hours, but it's going to be an awesome show. So here we go.
If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual S.O.R. fan party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldina Roscoe, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the S.O.R. fan party, May 10th through 12th, 2024.
All right. Yeah, bittersweet. Last time we'll see that commercial, but definitely want to thank everybody for coming in. Dave Scott tomorrow will have Jeff Woolwine in talking about Arizona UFOs, so maybe Phoenix Lights. Some of those other things will be discussed. Outside of that, though, definitely want to thank everybody who came in. Let me thank the Super Chatter. I know we had at least one here tonight. We had two. We had Moonlight 0111. Thank you for your support of Spaced Out Radio. We do appreciate that. And then we do have W. Decker, who came through bright and early, showing his love for Spaced Out Radio. Appreciate you, W. Decker. Appreciate you, pushing for unity in the community. So I know you'll understand what I mean by that, but definitely appreciate that. And really to all the other people out there, you're already space traveler, consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join a Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month. So please consider doing that. And otherwise, to all the viewers and listeners across the globe, thanks for giving your support and tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, we ask? We own the night. I'll go ahead and end it off like this, and we'll get up out of here. See you guys at the broadcasting live from Reno on Friday. So see you guys soon.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right. Peace, y'all. See y'all soon.